All right, a Friday edition of The Zone right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Jack Johnson, Dylan Michaels, heading up until 2 o'clock. The next 4 hours, we've got you. We'll get into some Royals baseball. We'll get into some Major League Baseball. We'll talk some Chiefs today and some other things that may come up. Mick Schaefer's going to join us later on in the show. We will talk an hour from now with Matt Derrick, Chiefs Digest. 41 is the Mike podcast. And then at noon, we will hang out with Tommy Thaw, the voice of the Cincinnati Reds, fellow Northwest Missouri State Bearcat. Tommy and I will simply catch up and reminisce, and we'll disguise that as a conversation about Royals and Reds. Sound good to everybody? We'll do the entire interview in our Denny Matthews impressions. We did it last year. We didn't do the entire interview, but we had a short couple-minute conversation as Denny Matthews. People seem to get a kick out of it. I don't know that we'll do that again, but we will talk with Tommy Thaw coming up later on, because this is a sneaky, fascinating series this weekend for the Royals and the Reds for a few different reasons that we will get into. The Chiefs play their second and really only important preseason game of interest tomorrow against the Lions, with the starters and Patrick Mahomes playing the most snaps that they will play this preseason. So we'll see, what they look like. We'll talk about what we want to see, what we're hoping to see, things we are specifically looking for in the game tomorrow. Greg Rosenthal at NFL.com has his list of the top 50 free agents going into the NFL season. We'll talk about that and the names that are on the list there. Major League Baseball discussing a 6-inning requirement for starting pitchers. There are some caveats and everything to that. There's also the element of snowball's chance in hell, but we will at least discuss some of the things that they are talking about as to maybe the motivations, those that are in favor of doing this and why they think this would be beneficial for Major League Baseball. We'll get into that. 913-912-4810 is the text line. 913-912-4810 text line to join us to be a part of the show, part of the conversation, and also wondering what you guys want to see in the game tomorrow, what you're looking forward to watch from the Chiefs. Outside of maybe, I think the main things are Kingsley and who's the second best cornerback on this team, because that's still up for debate. I'm leaning toward, all offseason I've said Joshua Williams, all offseason. And now I'm leaning more towards Jalen Watson. Sterling's very much in the Joshua Williams camp. We've had, a couple of guests on this week that are in the Jalen Watson camp. I'll ask Matt Derrick what he thinks, who he thinks is the second best cornerback for the Chiefs. Because we've heard Steve Spagnuolo and we've heard Dave Merritt say somebody has not taken the job. They want somebody to take the job. It is unfortunate. It's been back-to-back years where there's been this discussion around Williams and Watson. But we are talking about a smaller school fourth-rounder and a seventh-rounder. Not everybody is going to turn out to be L'Jarius Sneed and Charvarius Ward, because they were able to turn those guys into really good / great cornerbacks in the NFL. Does not mean that there is just a magic potion that the Chiefs have that they can, sprinkle a little pixie dust on cornerbacks and turn them into guys that are going to get huge contracts as free agents. Everybody's going to be different. So we'll see what the Chiefs will need to do this year if somebody does not step up and take that job. But certainly we'll be watching for that and, curious as to what other people will be looking for and paying specific attention to coming up tomorrow at 3 o'clock on Channel 41. It is on KSHB tomorrow for the Chiefs. And, again, the most important preseason game. So if there was going to be one game on, Channel 41, it was they got the right one. 913-912-4810. Because we'll be talking a lot of Chiefs today, I want to start with the Royals and the position they're in right now. I think it's easy, and certainly I, do this, and whether it's fall victim to it or, fall into the trap of focusing so much and specifically on what the Royals do, being hyper focused on the Royals game in and game out, every inning, every at-bat, what the pitchers are doing, the starters, the bullpen, the, offensive production, the lineup, who's pitching well, who's not pitching well, throughout every single game. And then you take, short stints, short sample size, week, 2 weeks, how they're playing. And focusing so much on the Royals and how they're playing is indicative of what the rest of the season is going to be and if they make the playoffs or not. And I thought it was very interesting to see after last night's loss for the Mariners and the Red Sox, to wake up today and a week ago last Monday, so not this last Monday, but the week before that, we were talking about a hugely important series against the Boston Red Sox. They are getting ready for a 3-game set against the Boston Red Sox starting that night, 3 games. And if I ask somebody right now, like randomly, how many games up were the Royals on the Red Sox when they started that series against them? Like what? That was such a big series. Do people remember the lead the Royals had in the wild card going into that game on Monday night? It was 2.5 games on the Red Sox. The Royals wake up today 2.5 games up on the Red Sox after this disastrous 2 weeks that we've talked about. Losing 2 of 3 to the Red Sox, losing 2 of 3 to the Twins, splitting with the Cardinals, blowing the Friday night game against the Cardinals. Lugo looking bad, Singer looking bad in both games. Just this team is falling apart. It's coming apart at the seams. They're not going to make the playoffs, and it's over. And it was a nice run, and let's all just turn to the Chiefs now because it's a second preseason game. They're breaking camp. We're getting really close. Cut downs coming up a week from Tuesday, and then we're less than 3 weeks away from the Chiefs and Ravens and trying to three-peat because it's so focused on the Royals. And I, myself, have done that and gone to the pessimism that's there. But I think what the last 2 weeks have sort of said, before the series against the Reds, but what the 2 weeks have sort of showed is a reminder of what we lived through in 14, 15, and 16, and a little bit of 17, in that each individual game and series can be taken it for what it is at that particular time. But over the course of a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, teams are going to be playing at different levels. And now, 11 days later, before that, what ended up being a disaster of a series and Cole Reagan's having to bail him out, and back-to-back Wednesdays bailing him out, the Royals are in the exact same position they were against the Red Sox in the wild card today to make the wild card, and 3.5 up on Seattle, because we focus on the Royals, but the Red Sox, since that Monday and Tuesday game, they're 2-6. The Royals haven't been great, but the Red Sox are 2-6, and they keep losing. And Seattle's 4-6 in their last 10 games. The Royals are 4-6 in the last 10 games. So 10 games ago, the Royals had a 3.5 lead on the Mariners. They still have a 3.5 lead on the Mariners. There are 40 games left. You do that 4 more times, you're in the playoffs. Now it's a matter of, can you do that? Because we know the schedule is difficult, but the schedule is more difficult for the Red Sox, according to Fangraphs, and strength of schedule remaining. The Red Sox have the second toughest schedule the rest of the way for any team in the American League. Royals have the 4th, but the Red Sox have the second toughest schedule. And that's shown so far. If they were a perfect team, if they were a team that was just going to be gangbusters the rest of the way, they wouldn't be trailing the Royals by 2.5 games right now. They wouldn't be out of the divisional race, that it doesn't even matter what they do the rest of the way. They're not catching the Yankees or the Orioles. One of those 2 teams is going to win. Orioles now in first place in the American League East, and the Red Sox playing the Orioles. So I think it's fascinating just looking at that and going, all right, every day updating how many games they're up, what the series is, and going 2.5 games up. Well, let me go back to Monday. Oh, they were 2.5 games up. It was just really interesting to see that exact number from all the ups and downs and the frustrations. They're in the exact same position they were before they played the Red Sox.
Yeah, I mean, the Royals had about as good of a day as you could have yesterday in just getting to rest up because, Seattle, they blow another game. They're dealing with some bullpen issues, so they get swept by a Detroit team that can't really score runs. And the Tigers got no runs in the first 7 innings in back-to-back games, found a way to win both. The Red Sox were coming off a sweep of Houston or getting swept by the Astros at home, and they take the first 2 games against the Rangers, and they blow Game 3 when they had a chance to sweep. So we can sit here and feel anxious, feel panicked about Seth Lugo's regression, the rotation running out of gas, the bullpen and all of that. But we also have to acknowledge that Boston and Seattle, the 2 teams chasing the Royals, are dealing with similar things. The Mariners have a great rotation. They have a terrible offense. They can't hit away from Seattle. And then you look at Boston, they've got the worst bullpen in baseball, at least in the second half so far, and it's not particularly close. So then you come down to schedule, right? And I think a lot of Royals fans are concerned about this gauntlet coming up with Minnesota, Cleveland, the Phillies. They're going to have to see the Astros. They're going to have to see the Yankees. The Red Sox, in my opinion, have 3 games left this season that are quote-unquote gimmies. And the Royals, I don't think there's many gimme games. There are favorable games. You look at the Angels coming up at Kauffman Stadium for a 3-game series to begin next week. But Boston right now has 3 more against Baltimore. Then they'll go to Houston, a team that just swept them. Then they host Arizona, the hottest team.
The team that's playing phenomenal baseball right now.
They are unbeatable. Then they'll host Toronto for 4. Toronto's, I would say they have the advantage, but Toronto also can be a sneaky team with their offense.
And they also have a guy in the middle of the Blue Jays lineup that's playing like an MVP. He just didn't play like an MVP the first month and a half of the season in Vlad Guerrero.
And then they'll get Detroit on the road and the Mets on the road. And they get 3 games against the White Sox on September 6th, September 7th, September 8th. That's also when the Royals have the Twins. So that puts more emphasis on that series. But here's who they end with. 4 in the Bronx against the Yankees, 3 at Tropicana against the Rays, 3 against Minnesota. They have to go to Toronto and wrap up the season against Tampa Bay. To me, in the end, Boston is going to be bitten by both their schedule and their bullpen's inability to close out games. I don't think their rotation, too, is nothing to be truly excited about. I mean, the Royals have had a great rotation. They may be on fumes, but it's not like Boston's rotation is kicking ass. And Seattle, I like Seattle's collection of guys, but I think their inability to hit is going to put them at a severe disadvantage when they go to L.A. next week against the Dodgers. They take on a Pirates team this weekend who's lost 10 in a row, but who throws tonight for Pittsburgh? Paul Skeens does. So these next 6 games could be monumental for the Royals with Cincinnati and the Angels. Cincinnati's playing really well, but you find yourself in a spot where you go 4-2 maybe. I mean, hell, we could be talking on Thursday morning about them having not just a cushy lead, but a very comfortable lead with less than 40 games to go. And the longer you keep holding on to that lead, those games start to dwindle away and less opportunity for Boston and Seattle to gain some ground.
And I know the theme is sort of like wasted opportunity, like missed opportunity, right? You missed the opportunity of taking 2 or 3 from the Red Sox. You missed an opportunity of taking 2 or 3 from the Twins. And, really taking 1 of 3 was the opportunity because of how they played on Monday and Tuesday. But because those teams played poorly, you're going, man, you're up by 2.5. But if the Royals had played better baseball, you'd have so much of a better cushion right now, which is great. It's a Royals-specific way of looking at it. But what's a bigger missed opportunity? The Royals, who were 2.5 games up in the wild card, that have played bad baseball and are still 2.5 games up in the wild card, or a team that's 2.5 games down in the wild card, chasing a team that's playing bad baseball, and you haven't gained even a half a game on them. What's a bigger missed opportunity? I would say Boston sitting there going, good God, what a missed opportunity we had. We beat the Royals 2 out of 3, and we're in the same exact position, only now they play the Reds, and we got 3 more against the Orioles. And we're in the same spot we were when we got to play them before we started a 3-game series in which we took 2 of 3. What a massive missed opportunity this was to get swept by Houston, to blow that game against the Rangers. We have shot ourselves in the foot, and now we've got to dig ourselves out of that hole. It's a bigger deal when you're chasing a team that's playing bad baseball and you don't gain a half a game on them at all. Nothing. You're in the same spot.
It's the reverse right now of what the Royals were dealing with in 16 and 17. In 16 and 17, they were Boston and Seattle constantly trying to catch up. And I remember, I think it was 2016 in August, if I'm not mistaken, they had this tear of like 15-5 over a 20-game stretch. And it still wasn't enough because they had put themselves in such a hole. And that's why with the Royals, that's kind of been used as a knock as, well, they were 34-19 and they've limped since Memorial Day. Well, that cushion allows you to have a little bit of a limp going into the playoffs. Hell, last year, Arizona limped into the playoffs. Texas limped into the playoffs. So to be at your best in the final 40 games of the season, it's not that easy. It's not that simple. But for the Royals, I keep going back to the phrase of just treading water, right?
Yeah.
If the Royals don't have that sweep, like getting swept by Minnesota or getting swept by Cleveland is going to severely hurt them, just in the way that Boston getting swept by the Astros severely hurt them. The Mariners getting swept in Detroit severely hurt them. And that, I think, we give the Royals a lot of crap for their performances in rubber matches. But I think also their ability to avoid those sweeps is why they are where they are, because that just cuts your losing streak off. At the knees. You've only lost 2 in a row, right? There's, even Cleveland, as good as they've been, they lost 7 in a row last week. So I think that kind of goes hand in hand with the phrase of treading water. This Royals team, even when they've been playing sub 500 baseball, are not as good against the great teams. When you're 500 or slightly below 500 against winning baseball teams, my definition is treading water. You're just doing what you need to do and beat up on the bad teams, and when it's all said and done, you're going to be 10 to 15 games over 500 and likely good enough to sneak you into the postseason.
And those avoiding of the sweeps is, it's huge, and it's a small thing here and there, but you're talking about being a game and a half up on the Red Sox last Wednesday after that win as opposed to trailing and now being out of the playoffs because of what Cole Reagans did on that particular day. And the Royals 3 times, I gave the numbers yesterday about Cole Reagans, the stopper. I pushed back on Matt Quattro's pushback of Andy Rogers talking about Cole Reagans being a stopper. And Matt Quattro's like, that's a narrative. I don't, you know how I am with narratives. And he's a stopper only because we've lost the last couple of games. Right. But the Royals have faced a sweep 3 different times this year with Cole Reagans on the mound. They're 3-0. When Cole Reagans has gone to the mat, and in those games, he's gone 6 innings, 1 earned run, 6 1/3, 1 earned run, 7 innings, 1 earned run. Like, he's a big reason why they're avoiding sweeps. And Seth Lugo at different times this year, stepping up and pitching well. He has certainly struggled down the stretch. And, on fumes could be the way to describe it, although he said he feels great. His body feels great. Velocity's up. Spin rate, all of that stuff still the same, he thinks. So it's just a matter of fine-tuning and figuring out why he's been hit around. Maybe it's just water finding its level. Maybe it's regressing to the back of your baseball card that he was so far out over his skis that eventually over the course of the season, if some of these games were mixed in along the way at the beginning of the year, and we look at it and go, well, yeah, he's had some rough games and he's been really good. He was just so dominant for a good stretch of baseball. It would have been great if that could have continued. But it was also sort of foolish to think, and we've talked about it a lot. We're like, well, we have to wonder about the regression for Seth Lugo. Like, he's not going to end the season with a 2 ERA. Could he end the season with a sub, 3 ERA? Certainly, he could. But along the way, there's been so many innings that he's put up already with a 2 ERA that there'll be some games where he gets hit around and, to lose a full run on earned run average. So the Royals have been able to do that. And now they get this series with the Reds. And, I'm fascinated to talk with Tommy coming up at noon because it'll be billed as Bobby versus Ellie, which is great. I mean, it was Bobby versus Ellie last year, only it wasn't Bobby and Ellie like we know them now. Like, it was Bobby who was like, wow, this guy's really turning into the player that, we thought he could be. Hey, look, Ellie is, not striking out as much as he did when he came on. But, hey, this guy's got all the tools in the world. But he didn't get a hit in the game last year against the Royals. And now it's Bobby Witt, second place in MVP voting, and superstar status, versus Ellie De La Cruz, who has figured out how to get on base at 350 now, instead of his batting average and on-base percentage being roughly similar because he strikes out a lot, not doing as much of that. And already with 59 stolen bases, he's got 23 more bags than the next closest guy. He's on pace for 79 stolen bases. If he gets to 80, I looked up this morning. The last year somebody had 80 stolen bases in a season. I was shocked. I didn't realize this at all. Last time somebody had 80 stolen bases in a season was 1988. Ricky Henderson. There hasn't been an 80 stolen base season since 88. And Ellie De La Cruz is on pace for 79. Now, I don't know if he gets to 78 or 79 and he does like Bobby, which is I'm going to try to steal every bag I can to try to get to 50 to have a 30-50 season. Ellie's got 9 more home runs that he needs to get to a 30, probably 60 or 70 season. But he's doing different things. They both offer that size or power, speed, defense combination. Amazing arms, range, speed, power, all of that stuff. Ellie's got, I think, 8 triples on the season. Bobby's got 11. Like, they have some similarities to their game. Different ways of getting there. Bobby being this can't miss guy since he was like 12, and Ellie De La Cruz signing for like $7,000 as a 16-year-old, you know? But it's also not just that. It's a team in the Reds who burst onto the scene last year and spent the offseason saying, we're going to take that step forward next year. They're in a position this year, or at least their position last year going into the offseason is what we kind of feel like the Royals are this year, heading into the offseason and going, okay, next year is our year. Because that's what they did. They burst onto the scene, they go into the offseason and going, this year, we're going to do something this year. And they did not play good baseball at the beginning of the season. And they're not going to catch the Brewers. They're 9 games out. They're 4 games out of the wild card. But in the last 20 games, they've gone from 7 games under 500 to now a 60-61 team. Technically, the Royals will be playing a sub-500 team this weekend. They are not playing like a sub-500 team. They just swept the Cardinals. The Reds are now playing baseball like they thought they would at the beginning of the year. It is not a 2014 Royals or anything like that where you're going to the World Series. It doesn't have that feel to it. But there's an element of they were supposed to be playing great baseball all season long. Why aren't they? Well, then the Royals figured out how to play great baseball, and they were really damn good down the stretch. I have no idea if that's going to be the Reds, but I don't view this series as the Royals are going up against a sub-500 team in the Reds. I view it as the Royals going up against a damn good team that is now playing baseball the way that they were thinking they would from the beginning of the season.
Yeah, and they're going to be facing a few guys in the rotation this weekend that have been pitching really well of late. I mean, the guy they see tonight, Nick Martinez, he made the transition from
he's gone from an opener to a long relief to a starter. Like, he's bounced around a lot this year alone.
Yeah, he made 2 starts to begin the year, then went in relief, and then has since jumped back in the rotation, been phenomenal. And Lorenzen gets him tonight. And then you look at tomorrow, I really like Nick Lodolo, and then I also like Andrew Abbott on Sunday. So this is a team, a young team at that, but one that is firing and also playing for their lives at this point. They're 4 games back of the wild card. They can't afford getting swept in a series or losing 2 of 3, and somebody like let's say the Cardinals now leapfrogging them because they just swept the Cardinals to jump them in the wild card standings. But no, it's a team you can't overlook, and I'm sure the Royals won't. But it's a tough matchup.
Yeah. All right, we'll take a timeout. We'll come back, continue rolling. I do want to talk a little bit about this 6-inning requirement that Major League Baseball is talking about, and then we will get into the Chiefs game coming up tomorrow, what we're looking for, what we're wanting to see. We'll talk with Matt Derrick coming up at 11 o'clock. We will hang out with Tommy Thrall, the voice of the Cincinnati Reds, at noon. Mick Schaefer will join us about 12:30 or so, and we got the cuts before the show is over as well. More Zone coming along next. Sports Radio 810 WHB, Jason Anderson with you, Jack Johnson, Dylan Michaels, heading up until 2 o'clock. (913-912-4810). If all you care about is the Royals making the playoffs, then fine, but they can't seem to beat any of the teams they're competing with for that spot or above. It's 2.5 games. You're talking like it's 10. No, we're not, actually. I don't remember us saying they have an insurmountable lead.
It's cushy.
Because 10 is an insurmountable lead. They don't have an insurmountable lead. It's the point that they played bad baseball and they're still up by 2.5 games.
Right. If you're the Red Sox, it feels like that because you did everything right and you're in the same position you were before you started.
Yes, that's right. I guess Texas, Vince Coleman had 81 in 1988 as well. Vince Coleman was the last one to have 100, which was literally the year before that in 1987. So Vince Coleman had like 4 years in a row when he had 100 stolen bases. It was just ridiculous. He was on a different level. And I think he's got the third most stolen base differential from first to second place. Lou Brock has the most, going back to 1965. I didn't go back further, so sorry. Since the Royals have been around, not that it matters, but Lou Brock had 59 more stolen bases than the next closest guy in 1974. And then Ricky Henderson in 1982 had 52 more than the next closest. And then Vince Coleman in 1987 had 49 more than the next closest. I bring that up because Ellie De La Cruz has 23 more right now than the next closest guy. 913-912-4810 is the text line to be a part of the show, part of the conversation. Let's talk about the Major League Baseball, at least what they're discussing or floating out there to see the reaction they get of a 6-inning requirement. The starting pitchers would be required to go at least 6 innings before you could take them out of the game unless 3 things happen. They reach 100 pitches, they give up 4 or more earned runs, or they leave the game with an injury that then is accompanied by an IL stint. Now, I have no idea what the penalty would be for them taking somebody out of the game and then him not going on the IL. Could they prove that the guy didn't have an injury and then after further evaluation, an IL stint wasn't needed? Like, what's the penalty for that? I have no idea. My first reaction to this is, okay, so they're floating things out there just to see what people think about them. I think they're also floating things out there because they are trying to get the message that, hey, we agree with the fact that the starters aren't going long enough into games and it's gotten so much about max pitch velocity and the spin rates and that stuff has gotten kind of out of control. We are trying to find some solutions to this. But my first thought is like, this will never happen. Like it can't happen. Like there's too many unintended consequences or just consequences that you could probably see beforehand happening with this rule if they were to even, go about trying to implement it.
There are things to improve the game of baseball, to speed up the pace of play and all of that. And then I think there's another thing to just take away strategy, because part of strategy is, hey, we have a guy who's given up 3 runs in 5 innings. He's at 90 pitches. You're telling me I have to send him back out there when I can turn it over to a bullpen who may be really good. It's the same way with, banning the shift. I got annoyed with the shift, but it was strategy, right? This guy is a pull hitter, a dead pull hitter. Why do I have to change my defense around so that it benefits the hitter, right? This is just continuously benefiting offense, and if that's more so for the watchability, I understand why you're floating it out there, but this seems kind of foolish to me. I don't get any part of this, why it should be a requirement when there's so many little loopholes in it. 4 earned runs, 100 pitches, IL stint. Just don't mess with it, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think one of the, my first instinct is that it won't happen. The reason I'm talking about it is because it is something that they are discussing to a point that they have actually come up with caveats as to, so if we implement this, not that it will happen, but they are really looking for things to require and litigate a starting pitcher to go deeper into a game, whether that is to take away a couple of roster spots for teams. Limit the number of players you can have in the bullpen. So you can't use those guys. Require a bullpen arm to not pitch 3 days in a row. Or if he pitches back-to-back, he has to have 2 days off. Or, maybe even going to the extreme of he can't pitch back-to-back days, which, by the way, Clase had 4 straight games in which he had a save. Okay, so you would take that away from somebody who can go out there and pitch like that. You would eliminate somebody who unless you have this one guy is our designated bullpen arm that can go however many days they want. Maybe that's the closer. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's somebody that Matt Quattro is trying to use like an Urseg and just to move them around in different spots. They are trying to come up with ways to where it is not just max velocity strikeouts and pitcher injuries, which they're connecting the two of the max velocity and the injuries, which I get it. The one of the main correlations is velocity and injuries. If it's injuries, we still don't know what causes injuries or why certain players get injured and others don't. But the one correlation that they have found that there is at least something there is velocity and arms breaking down. So whether Major League Baseball is trying to come up with a rule to help pitchers stay healthier or make it feel like, no, this is more traditional baseball. We don't have openers or bullpen games. Like you're going to a game and hey, this guy's on the mound. He's going to be out there for 6 or 7 innings. I loved Lugo's response of, I try to do that every game. Like I try to go through 6 innings every game. This isn't like I'm going to be like, oh, no. But there's no way like you could have a guy on the mound who hasn't got to 100 pitches yet and hasn't given up 4 earned runs, but you can also tell is like he doesn't look right out there. But I have to leave him out there or we're going to have some sort of punitive damage if I take him out and don't put him on the IL. I just have to leave him out there to go get hit around until he gets to 100 pitches. Okay, great. Throw left-handed until you get to 100 pitches. Just lob it up. Now the game is over. We're forfeiting this. And if you're going to have to go through 6, well, then you got to pitch to contact. And one of the things we've talked about with offense is, like, yeah, offense might be down, all that stuff, but, man, they are facing pitchers that have stuff that we've never seen before. The movement, the velocity, like, Paul Skeen's 17 inches of run on a 100-mile-an-hour like, this is just absurd what these guys are facing. Okay. So if they've been practicing and have the skill to hit those pitches, what happens if a guy has to dial back velocity, dial back movement, because he's got to get through 6 innings? So now the offense becomes better, which means that the pitcher might give up more runs, or it takes more pitches to get through an inning because you're giving up more hits and doubles and whatever that might be, and now you're driving the pitcher out of the game before the 6th inning because he's given up 4 or more earned runs. It's just he's not doing it at max velocity. He's doing it differently because these guys have been practicing for crazy stuff, and now it's not moving the same way it did. Now it's not coming in as fast as it was.
Yeah.
Okay, well, now they're hitting it harder than they are right now.
I think I can paint a perfect scenario as to why this could never work. So if it's the 6-inning threshold here, and it has to be 100 pitches, let's paint this picture of the Royals are playing the Yankees. Cole Reagans is on the mound. He's at 5 2/3 and 98 pitches, let's say. Bases are loaded. It's a 1-run game. And Aaron Judge comes to the plate. So he has to face Aaron Judge.
He's required to face.
You can't take him out, and that's strategy there.
He's already recorded 17 outs.
And you're forcing him because he's 2 pitches away to go out there. I thought about this yesterday. I go, this will never pass because of situations like this. Because, you could go, well, it's great for baseball to see Reagans versus Judge. Well, this is about winning baseball games, and that would be foolish to leave a guy who's already near 100 pitches at 5 2/3 in a 1-run game with the bases loaded where you can't put him on, and you'd much rather have a right-handed guy go in that spot. So to me, it's probably floated out there. They have a couple of caveats to it, but to me, it can never pass because baseball, yes, there was a pace of play problem in the eyes of some out there, but I'm also not for eliminating strategy to benefit the watchability, right? Or the speeding up of play. Like, pitch clock was fine because I wasn't for pitchers stomping around the mound after every single pitch. I'm like, I always loved it when guys got into a rhythm. I'm throwing strikes. I'm getting on the mound. Mark Burley-esque, if you will. Like, I'm there to watch action. I don't want to see you walk around the mound all the time. But I was not for this massive shift of, well, let's just make everything head to head. Let's not worry about strategy, because part of baseball's beauty is the strategy. I have never watched a game and gotten flustered by somebody pulling a starter in the fourth inning. It's never been an issue to me. That's part of strategy. Hey, we don't think he can go through a third time, or this is a part of the order he really struggles against. We're going to our bullpen. If anything, that's worse for the team pulling the starter because they're taxing their bullpen early on. So why you have to force starters to go 6 innings? I think it leads to more injuries because they are forced to throw 100 pitches or get tagged in the game. I don't see the necessary part of that. And you'll have guys like Seth Lugo or Cole Reagans who haven't thrown 200 innings before, right? They're trying to piece together a season where they're surpassing their career high, but they're also going to run into those hurdles, those obstacles of, Seth Lugo's 40 innings past his career high. And if you're forcing every guy to do that, well, you're going to have outings like what Seth Lugo had on Tuesday in August and September because you're making guys throw 6 innings every single time out.
And part of that, managers talk all the time about getting into a team's bullpen early in a series. We gave credit for the Royals avoiding a sweep against the Padres on Sunday because they were down by 10 runs on Friday, but they put an amazing inning together in the ninth that forced Suarez to come out and pitch in the ninth. And then on Saturday, because they almost blew the game the night before with a 4-run lead, they still put Suarez in to protect that lead because they weren't taking a risk like they did the night before, which meant he couldn't pitch on Sunday. And they did blow the game in that particular night. But and that's a very specific with a closer, all of that stuff, him coming in. But to your point, you get a guy out of the game in the 4th inning and it's game 1 of a 4-game series. That's a pretty decent advantage of game 2 and 3 and maybe especially 4 for what you might be able to do. I also don't think the Players Association would be cool with this because you are making starters more valuable, but you're then cheapening relievers.
Yeah.
You're making them less valuable. And in theory, the Players Association is supposed to be for everybody, but if they were really for everybody, they'd have a salary cap and a salary floor, but they're not for everybody. So maybe that doesn't matter. Maybe Major League Baseball is cool, starters get even more money now. And the relievers that weren't getting a lot of money anyway don't get as much money. That's fine. Now there's more money that's going to be out there.
Remember the optics of, I think it was Max Scherzer showing up to those negotiations in a $700,000 McLaren or something. Yeah, that was
right.
The one for all.
And how
the
poor they were. Yes,
yeah.
That's right.
Well, it was something we saw not too long ago where it was the 3-batter minimum. It took away the advantage of having the loogie guys who just came in and faced. Terry Francona shined with Cleveland's bullpen using that. Of Oliver Perez faced one guy an inning, and it was the lefty. But this, to me, is way too extreme, right? I think you did your job of, hey, we got annoyed with you bringing in a bullpen guy for each out of that inning. It was strategy, which I can see that side of a manager going, look, I'm trying to win a game. This is how I'm going to do it. This is just to the extreme. And when you're adding all these other little things in there, why not just let the starter go as far into that game if he can? If he's at 3 innings and he's given up 3 earned runs and he's at 70 pitches, when it's a 3-0 game, why do you have to see that guy throw 30 more pitches? Why not be able to turn it over the bullpen? And there's scenarios like the COVID year where it was Kevin Cash pulling Blake Snell early when he was dominating. I'm sorry, even though it was a bad decision and people were pissed off, it's strategy. It was the World Series. It's a part of the game, and this just feels like you're trying to make everything so quick, so easy, so smooth, and I don't believe in the end it would be any of those things.
I think it's showing that there's at least, in Major League Baseball, they are trying to figure out a way to litigate those guys going deeper into games. This is just one of the things they've thought about. They floated out there. Maybe this is the floated out there for people to go, that's so extreme, so that when they actually do come up with something in the rules, they go, well, that's a little more palatable than what they were talking about doing with the 6-inning rule. Okay, this makes a little more sense to try to get back to what we traditionally used to think of as, a Major League Baseball starting pitching matchup. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, and we'll weigh in on what we want to see on Saturday, that being tomorrow, with Chiefs and Lions. And then Matt Derrick will join us for the 11 o'clock hour. More Zone next. All right, we'll talk with Matt Derrick coming up in the next hour. Last segment with Jack here today. So, Jack, I'll get you to weigh in. What are you looking for in tomorrow's game, Chiefs and Lions? What are you going to be maybe paying a little more closer attention to? And Matt and I will get into this conversation in the next hour.
I'm pretty excited to see the wide receiver battle for the guys that we know need to be battling for a spot. I want to see Xavier Worthy get a little bit involved. We talked about earlier in the week how that first play was drawn up for him. You look at somebody like Justin Ross, Nico Remigio, Sky Moore, even guys like McCole Hardman. I would love to see Saturday kind of being used as that game, which we know with Mahomes and a lot of the starters out there, this is going to be their chance to play and get their reps in before that Thursday night game against Baltimore. So even though preseason game to me isn't the absolute judge of everything, it's not going to hurt some of those guys if they go out there and have a really good performance like Remigio did in Jacksonville. I think Sky Moore needs to have one of those games to really pop in the preseason. He may still make this roster, but it comes down to a question of where he is on the totem pole. And I do think he's one of those guys that needs to go out there in one of these games and play really well to kind of cement the fact of, okay, let's give him one more shot at this. Even though he's incredibly young, he's 23 years old. He's younger than Rashee Rice, by the way, but it's year 3 of a professional career. So that's something that I'm going to be looking forward to.
Yeah, no, it's the wide receivers. It's amazing 3 years in a row. Like the conversation in the preseason is, what do these wide receivers look like? Let's watch and check out these wide receivers. And that's what happens when you're, post Tyreek Hill era, in that, you're not going to be able to just replace one for one. You take away one of the most dynamic, if not the most dynamic receivers in the NFL, best receiver in Chiefs history. You take that guy off the field in his prime, you're not replacing that dude. So how do you replace him with different guys? And it's now year 3 of trying to figure that out. I think they are better positioned to, quote-unquote, replace a Tyreek Hill than they have been the last couple of years. It's just a matter of that positioning would also involve Hollywood Brown being healthy, and that isn't the case right now. But it does give an opportunity, like you talk about, to guys to step up and make the squad. Nico Remigio, what does he do? Not fumble / almost fumble. Also, don't jump for that ball.
Yeah,
I mean, if he
they
just
need
simply
to.
catches it and keeps running, he might score. Like, he might have taken a touchdown off the board by just simply catching it. He had like 10 yards of separation, and the ball was going to hit him in the numbers. Like, there was no reason to jump, man. I'm saying this is somebody just watching the game. Jack, thank you, brother. the Mic podcast. Matt, what is up, brother? Good to see you for the first time in, I think, what has it been, 3 years?
It feels like it.
Probably a year for every topping on the table.
I feel like I think it's the first time this football season that we've seen each other.
Actually, since camp started, yeah.
See,
I think
exactly.
Yeah, so
it was a whole football season ago that last time we saw each other.
That's right. I was trying to make it to September 5th before I saw you, but that's just not the way that it's going to work out. Matt Derrick is our guest, presented by Cap One Lending. How was yet another training camp wrapped up? Are you okay with not heading up to St. Joe anymore, even though I know that you enjoy going up there and covering camp? You're one of the sickos, I think, at times.
It's a love-hate relationship.
Okay.
There's no doubt. I mean, there's a lot of things to enjoy about it. The length and exhaustion of the days. And you know what? Here's the crazy thing is that, in the grand scheme of things, I mean, for me, it's only twice as long as the drive to work as I normally have.
Okay.
It's
only twice as long.
You
That's not
think
bad.
another 45 minutes a day. That's not a big deal and everything. But then you add, just being outside the entire time, and you're kind of, at least for me, I'm trying to document everything as much as I possibly can, and especially over the last couple of weeks, I'm trying to whenever the first team's out there, I'm trying to make sure I can get every single receiver and all the skill position guys who are on the field with which quarterback and everything. So it's mentally draining.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
You're drinking from a fire hose from a degree. You are, as Steve Spagnuolo would say, swimming out there. I felt like I was probably feeling a little bit like Dory, as Dave Merritt would say.
Just keep swimming.
Just keep swimming. Just keep swimming. So, it's.
Okay.
But I think the bigger thing, of course, is naturally that as I think everybody knows. Not everybody. I'm not.
No, I think everybody's been followed. They were talking about it on First Take.
But I am the worst morning person in the world.
That's what the discussion was. Is Matt Derrick
that's the real challenge. That's why I invented the Matt Derrick versus the first guy to get on the field every day, because I need a reason
it's a challenge
to
to
get
yourself.
to work at 8:30 in the morning every day when you got to get up at 6:45. And I know 90% of the audience out there is yeah, Matt, we do that every freaking day. What are you complaining about?
That's funny.
I'm just not a morning guy. This job, 11 months out of the year, perfect for a non-morning guy. This 1 month,
one trip
brutal.
to St. Joe. Yeah, that's
brutal.
It is a little more difficult. Matt Derrick, Chiefs Digest, is our guest. 41 is the mic. We'll talk about your newly projected 53-man roster and your rosterology at Chiefs Digest. But just curious as to before we look ahead to tomorrow and break down some of the bigger things from this team, your observations and sort of takeaways from preseason game number 1 of what stood out to you. And I know some of that is then noted in the rosterology, but some of the things that you took away from the first time we've seen this team in action since the Super Bowl.
Yeah, in small sample size, obviously, because we didn't get to see the starters for a whole lot. But I thought, even though it ends in a field goal, I thought that was a very efficient drive for the first-team offense. The Hollywood injury, even kind of bouncing back from that. I don't know how much that the guys on the offensive side were really worried about it because they didn't know maybe the severity of it. But, you had a plan for going out there with Hollywood, Worthy, and Rice and going downfield. It obviously gets interrupted with the injury to Hollywood. But they bounce off of that. In a regular season game, I do wonder if the Chiefs go ahead and go for that 4th and 3, to 29. Maybe you do go for that in that situation, get a touchdown. I thought that was a pretty good drive. Defensively, there were some concerns, but then again, it's preseason, and I'm not trying to be an excuse machine, but you look down at it and you're like, oh, no, okay, no Chris Jones, no Nick Bolton, no Justin Reed.
Yeah.
That's
your leader of all three levels.
That's exactly. That's just the true middle of your defense down the middle. That's going to affect some things, and but I think it was good that there were some young guys who were going to play this year who got some good experience. Even though Kingsley only got the 6 snaps, I think 5 of them were really good snaps, so that's promising. Jaden Hicks is just going to be. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but there's a reason why we're not hearing about a contract extension for Justin Reed, and that's because they've got Jaden Hicks and Brian Cook and Jamari Connor. You don't need to sign Justin Reed after this season. And, even though as good of a player he's been,
Yeah.
I think he's been a great leader too. That was kind of exposed a couple of weeks ago when I asked Trent McDuffie, I'm like, so who's the leader out there? Who's the vocal leader out there when, you don't have Justin Reed? And it was just like, well, all the guys kind of pitch in. Yeah.
That's right.
So they'll need somebody. And Brian Cook will probably end up being, I think, one of those guys. And maybe Jaden Hicks will too. Who knows? But I thought that some of the young players were particularly impressive. But obviously, special teams, they've got some work.
Yeah.
And it is, once again, special teams is the hardest thing to practice because you can't go live. The coaches will always tell you that, that's what the preseason games are most important thing is special teams because you can't replicate what you do on special teams in a practice, in a game. It's just not possible.
Yeah, so don't stay in the end zone on a kickoff. Don't take a knee.
Sometimes you learn some things that you didn't know.
That's right.
Apparently that some guys knew that a ball in the end zone was a live ball, but not everybody knew that.
Yeah, and it's, let's start there just as to piggyback off of where we're going right now. But CBS Sports had their good, bad, and ugly of the first week of the kickoff rule. And the ugly, shockingly, it was the Chiefs. And it was the ugly, and it was just labeled, Chiefs don't know the new kickoff rules. Which I thought, interesting. And they wrote, and the reason they say Chiefs don't know is they wrote, the officiating crew on the field actually ruled that to play a touchback, but that soon changed after they reviewed the situation. Says in the last year's rule, kickoff landed in the end zone on the flies, immediately became a dead ball. So if it happened last year, it would have been an automatic touchback. However, in the new kickoff rule, that's not the case. Jags head coach Doug Peterson was told by his coaching staff that play was a safety when it happened.
Yeah.
So he actually had to go and talk to the officials. That's when the crew decided to review it. It's amazing that the Chiefs sideline is going, we had no idea. Well, we're all learning on the fly. Well, we found this out. And that was after the fact. And the Jags coaches went to Doug Peterson and said, that's a safety. With these new rules, that's a safety. That's concerning to know the only reason that they went and reviewed it is because the Jags coach knew immediately that was supposed to be a safety. That's not a touchback. And the Chiefs are going, well, we all learned that we're learning in real time with this whole thing. Like, dude, Dave, like that's the job. Like, I understand coming up with strategies, but knowing the rules of the game is a big part of this.
Yeah, and here's the crazy thing, and I believe I'm correct on this. I know one of them for sure, but I think it happened on all of them. I went back and looked at all of the plays that, at least in the last 30 years, that you can find on Pro Football Reference and StatHead, all the plays that resulted in a safety on a kickoff return. And there'd only been 3 in the regular season. Our playoffs, well, never in the playoffs, but there only been 3 in the last 30 years. And one of them was on a lateral at the end of the game, Yeah, threw it out of the back of the end zone because they were trying to, it was like the 17th lateral.
Yeah.
And but the other 2 were almost exactly the same situations as Hardman's, which was that they were cases where the returner pulled the ball from the 1 into the end zone and
to take a knee
and everything. And so they were very similar situations, and neither one of them had been kneeling down when they pulled the ball in. That was really the only difference versus Hardman. But those other 2 also had to get reviewed because they were coming out to be touchbacks and got reviewed to turn into safeties. So, I don't think that's fairly uncommon, but to your point, and this is the other issue, I think it was a reporter that I trust, and I can't remember who it was, said that in one of the official meetings in Dallas, the officials go around to all the teams and meet, and they usually take some time to talk with reporters too. John Hussey and his crew a couple of weeks ago met with us in Kansas City and answered some questions. But I think it was, the number was either 23 or 26. That's the number of changes that the NFL has issued since I think July, and modifications to the kickoff rule. And it's little tweaks. Like one of them was a memo saying that you can't put the football sideways on the tee.
Since July.
Because, and the funny thing is I know some teams who have been practicing putting the football on the tee on the sideways since the memo came out.
Yeah.
But the reason is because there's, once again, the arcane and craziness of the NFL rule in the NFL rule book that the football cannot be more than an inch off the ground at kickoff. if you put a ball sideways on a tee, it's 1.5 inches off the ground. So therefore, putting the ball sideways on the tee,
half
not
inch is
legal.
crucial.
Yeah, that half inch is crucial.
A lot of people.
But it's been because the teams are all trying to figure out ways around this rule. I mean, or how to best, manage it. I think it's safe to say they're looking for the workarounds of the rule.
Well, we talked a little bit about this on Wednesday after Dave Tobe talked, and the questions to him about those addendums, and you bringing up the football sideways and everything, which I didn't realize that was a new addendum, and the fact that I didn't realize there were that many different things added to the rule book since July on this kickoff rule, and so Sterling and I and Dylan, we sort of like we're talking like, okay, so. And I think it was with Daniel Holmes. It's like, so have they expedited this too quick? Like, should they have spent this preseason saying, we are going to use this kickoff rule. It will not be used during the regular season and the playoffs, but we are experimenting with how we can get the kickoff back into the game. And this will give us an idea of the unintended consequences and things that we need to clean up before it becomes officially a part of the game. Or, as I put it, is it just better to rip the Band-Aid off and, build the plane while you're flying it, essentially?
I mean, I would say it's probably what they're doing is probably for the best. I think there's a couple of mistakes that they have made along the way. And one of them is just not acknowledging that this rule is going to need some tweaks more publicly. I mean, John Hussey was very frank in our conversations. And and he even said, that he's like, this is very much a work in progress. That, they know that there's going to be tweaks during the season. There's going to be things that pop up that they did not anticipate. The 26 changes is an indication already.
It's a lot of things.
That teams are trying to figure out quirks around the rule and what you can do. And I thought one thing was really interesting because I went back and looked at the documentation that the league sent out and the video that the league sent out to teams. And for like a kickoff into the end zone, it just says that any ball that lands in the end zone, unless it goes out of bounds, has to be returned or downed. Well, and some of the language didn't even say if it goes out of bounds. It just says that any ball that lands in the end zone must be returned or downed. Well, you hear that and you see that, and I could see why a Deneric Prince is going to think, okay, hey, the ball landed in the end zone. It's downed, because it used to be.
Yeah.
None of the documentation does the NFL, and I think maybe it did say it once in the video, but in a lot of the documentation, none of it actually just literally says any ball that lands in the end zone is a live ball. And I think that would have helped, maybe, because I think the Chiefs were also in that mindset that clearly not everybody knew that ball was a live ball. There's probably some other guys around the league that don't know that.
I mean, McCole knew it.
McCole knew it.
I mean, we joke about McCole.
He just forgot you can't pull the ball into the end zone.
He got halfway. To me,
he was a victim of bad luck.
Yeah, the original sin was Deneric Prince thinking the ball in the end zone is a dead ball.
Yeah.
And not knowing that particular rule. McCole Hardman knew the rule, but then was like, well, I can't return it now. These guys are already like, I'm just going to have to down this in the end zone. Yeah. One of and we'll see if this ever happens, if this is ever an addendum that goes along with it. I don't think they would implement it in real time during the season, but it might be something to where you go into the offseason.
Don't rule it out. I may not change anything at this point.
But I would like to see if the kickoff lands before the 30-yard or the 20-yard line. So you've got to have it land in that landing zone. Anything before the 20-yard line is an immediate dead ball, and it goes to the 40. That's the rule. Like, you have a specific place that you need to land it. Well, on a punt, if the punting team goes and touches the ball but doesn't down it, the receiving team can pick it up and run with it, and they have their choice with the end of the play or first touching. I think that should still be a live ball. I should still be able to return it. What if I get a touchdown here? So I should at least get, it's almost like a free play to it. You made the mistake of kicking it before the 20, of landing it before the 20. I'd like to return it. If I get to the 50, I can choose that. If I fumble, I get it at the 40. You've made the mistake. I'd like to try to see if I can, I've already capitalized because I got the ball at the 40-yard line. That's a pretty significant and punitive penalty already. So maybe that's what they're looking at and saying you're already penalizing that person. And maybe we are taking a little bit out of the making it, quote unquote, a little safer in that there are fewer returns on that particular play. But I wonder if that will be something that will be implemented if the return team is like, man, our guy scooped it up at the 18-yard line. and we were getting ready. We would have got to the 50 or whatever, but it's immediately dead. I wonder if that's something. It's just I saw it the other day, and it landed.
That's a good question. I'm not exactly sure why that they just
Yeah.
didn't allow that as an option.
Just I get my choice. The end of the play.
I mean, they
or
want
the 40-yard line.
returns, so I don't know why they're eliminating returns in that sense.
I mean, who knows if maybe that'll be something they implement in real time, like week 8. We're not going to allow you to return the kick even if it lands before the 20-yard line, and you get your choice of result of play or at the 40-yard line to start your drive.
I'm surprised. I mean, and because we saw it in practice in Kansas City here, and we asked the officials about it. The one where, I mean, it says in the rules obviously that if it strikes a player outside the landing zone, dead ball at the 40. But the fact that a player, if it's like a low line drive, a player can just reach up and touch the ball. If it's one of the up guys and everything. And Deion Bush did it a couple of times where he just reached up and can't leave the ground. The rule says that he can't leave the ground. But if you can just reach up and touch the ball, get your ball at the 40. I mean, the fact that teams figured that out and everything. I mean, and this is the other part of it, too, is that we're not going to know a lot of the other quirks and workarounds and what fixes need to happen until the regular season because teams are all playing vanilla right now. This is just mainstream kick returns. This is none of the squirrely stuff that they're going to do come week 1. Because I don't know. I don't know what every team's strategy is. I'm sure there will be a handful of different kind of groups. But, I mean, Chiefs, one of their strategies, and Dave Tobis said it, I mean, getting the ball on the ground is the key. And so if you can get a kickoff that is on the ground, makes it difficult for the other team to handle, because obviously once the ball hits the ground, you can move. So if you can get you can get the ball on the ground, anything can happen. And that's what teams are going to want to do. And nobody's really, for the most part, doing that. Right now they want returns because they want to see how their coverage teams look and everything like this. And they don't want to give away what their real strategy is in the preseason.
Yeah. The touching the ball before the 20-yard line is interesting because, I think of the rule where the ball is over at the sideline. If you step out of bounds and then touch it, then you get the ball, up there.
And a lot
closer.
of people think that should be the rule in the end zone too, and it's not.
And it's not, But now I'm thinking, like, if somebody kicks the ball high or even tries to kick it like on a line drive, like I've got 2 returners back there, so if I've got time to get my returner up to like the 22, can he touch it even though it's going to land in the 20? But he touches it at like the 20.
He can't because he can't leave the landing zone. He has to be lined up in the landing zone.
Okay, so then maybe he lines up at the 19.
And reaches across the landing zone to touch.
I have no idea. I guess they probably thought about that. There you go.
I think I think you figured out a workaround there.
I don't know if I did.
Have.
Reaches it and touches it to where it's like, that was at the 21. Visiting with Matt Derrick, Chiefs Digest, and 41 is the Mike podcast. All right, so if you're guessing, I want to ask this part, and then it'll be jumping off point of other wide receiver conversation. But if you're guessing, what's the game that you would pinpoint that Hollywood would be back for?
Ooh, great question. I mean, I think it's not totally impossible week 1. I think that would be very, very rushed. Week 2, I think, is a lot more probable. I think, if I had to bet on it, I think week 3 is the most probable because, think about, Tyreek with very similar injury. I mean, we don't know the extent, whether Hollywood's is better, worse, or exactly the same, but very, very similar. Tyreek missed 4 games. There was a 35-day break between his injury and his next game back. Week 1 for Hollywood's going to be 26 days between the injury and the first game back. That's, I think, too difficult. But then you got another 10 days, so week 2 would be 36 days. So that could be very, very plausible. But then the question is, hey, he's now missed a chunk of training time, camp time, and everything. And do you want to put him in the exact same spot that you basically put Kadarius Toney last year? Yeah. And then Kadarius Toney has all the drops in week 1 and the problems. So, do you want to give Hollywood another week to practice, get set? I mean, we'll see what happens, but I think week 3 would be the most probable.
Yeah, we landed on the exact, we said week 3. I'm planning for week 3. And if he plays before that, hey, great. Awesome. Because I don't think they would put him out there if he's like 75 or 80%.
No.
I know he's going to do everything he can to play against the Ravens in week 1.
He wants to play that game.
I just don't see that being possible.
No.
Because I also don't want to hold him to a standard of Tyreek Hill's recovery ability. What if Tyreek Hill's 35 days was on the low end, that it's like, man, can't believe Tyreek Hill only came back from that after 35 days and played football again. That seems pretty extreme when that was the low end. Like, I don't think we should hold Hollywood Brown to that same standard. If he misses 6 weeks, it's like, well, Tyreek only missed 4. Well, Tyreek would have a hamstring injury and come back 3 plays later. Like, he didn't miss a whole lot of games. Like, he's a freak. And maybe his body heals different, which it does. Adrian Peterson came back from an ACL tear like 2 weeks later. I know it wasn't that much, but he came back like 9 months and rushed for 2,000 yards. I'm not going to hold I'm not going to hold Charles Omenihu to the standard of Adrian Peterson. So I'm looking at Atlanta because I don't want to hold Hollywood Brown to the standard of Tyreek Hill. And I think it's a good basis of comparison. Hey, Tyreek came back in 35 days. I mean, that would obviously
That's 5 weeks, and 4 to 6 is the timeline generally.
And I think that was even to the point of like, man, he only missed this many games. That's awesome. The good part for Hollywood, the positive to come from this or from the entire situation, is that it happened in game 1 of the preseason and not game 2 or 3 or game 1 of the regular season. So whatever the recovery time is, it's literally the minimal amount of games he can miss in the regular season.
Crazy thing to me is that I had never heard of this injury until Tyreek with the sternoclavicular joint dislocation posterior.
Nice job.
Yes, thank you very much.
What if that happened to Kingsley Suamataia? Hopefully it does not, but I'm just saying, like, Suamataia suffered a sternoclavicular posterior dislocation.
I mean, but based on the odds, I mean, when's it going to happen? Because it would have to happen in Jacksonville, because that's apparently the only place that these injuries take place.
That's a great point. Yeah.
I mean, I've literally never. I mean, I know it's happened in other injuries in the NFL. I've tried to find them. I tried to find it the other day and everything. Like, that was another player, and I'm like, I'm sure it's hidden somewhere in just the Google search results. But
was that the first drive of the game for the Chiefs
in Jacksonville the first time?
Yeah, with Tyreek Hill.
I think it was.
Was that like his first catch of the season? It was early on because it was Tyreek and Jalen Ramsey, and Ramsey was the one that tackled him, and I think that was pretty early on in the game. Like, some of those crazy similarities. See, like we said, Hollywood is replacing Tyreek Hill.
There you go. I mean,
people are not
like,
seeing, like, you guys gotta see the 3D. All right, this is in 4D now. Okay,
that is pretty crazy.
This is more than just an injury. Who does it benefit then, do you think? Hollywood going down, who does it benefit on the field? Or are there multiple players that benefit from Hollywood going down?
He had 2 catches that day. So
that was his second catch?
Yes.
Yeah, so, I mean, he had one more catch than Hollywood. So his second catch of the day, and I knew it was early in the game too, but is there an on-field benefit for a player with Hollywood going down, and is there a roster benefit for a player? Who is in an unfortunate circumstance going to benefit from Hollywood being injured?
I mean, I feel that it certainly increases the likelihood that the Chiefs will now keep 7 receivers. I mean, maybe that was 100% already. I don't know. I mean, but if they were thinking about only keeping 6, I think this does change your calculus to take 7, just because you don't know what's going to happen. I mean, there'll always be setbacks. I mean, you need to be prepared. And remember, I mean, you got to set your roster, in the Chiefs' case, 9 days before your first game. So, a lot of things can happen in that period of time. And even when Hollywood gets back, I mean, something could happen. You could get pushed back in again. So I think you got to be prepared for that. In that game the other night, I mean, McColl took his place. He took the reps. But, the way that I think Matt Nagy and even Connor Embry may have mentioned it, they're feeling like maybe Justin Watson will probably be the benefit of, the playing time. He'll probably take more of the work. I mean, he's the next guy up, more or less. I mean, we talk about the depth chart and rotation. I mean, Justin Watson's your 4th receiver. Where's McColl in that list? I mean, I'm increasingly believing that McColl Hardman's going to make this team. Even if the snaps this week probably have me asking that question a little bit, because I don't feel like he was getting, at least from my numbers, it wasn't getting as many first-team snaps as he was last week. But that can also be just because even with Hollywood out, they're wanting to see Justin Watson more in those spots. Maybe some other receivers, see what they can do. But, McColl's also going to be, kind of cuffed to Xavier Worthy, in that if Xavier Worthy were to go down, who's your backup? Nicole Hardman's your backup behind Worthy. So does that increase his chances of making this team? I think so. I was thinking that Justin Ross was going to have a hard time making this team, but I tell you what, I mean, he can be such a weapon on the one route that he can run and the one play that he can run. And Connor Embry gave up the game talking about that the other day. Bless his heart. It was just like we just tell Justin Ross, just go down there and for 50-50 balls. That's it, and that's what he gets in camp. I mean, that's the things he catches. It's sideline fades and back shoulder throws and 50-50 balls down. That is the play. He seems to catch 100% of those. Run a slant, and it's less than 50-50.
Who knows what's going to happen?
Who knows what's going to happen?
And who knows if he's going to be in the spot on the slant that he's supposed to be.
Yeah, run a dig, a post. I mean, anything else doesn't necessarily lead to success. Yeah. But you just put him on the sideline with a back shoulder fade of some sort.
I mean, you around camp and around the last 2 years of camp with specifically Justin Ross. I said this yesterday, and maybe I'm not reading the tea leaves the same as others because Sterling disagreed to a degree. But I said that the hype around Justin Ross last year seemed to be so much more extreme than it is now, yet he's having a better training camp this year than he did last year. That I can't imagine if what we're seeing at training camp for Justin Ross this year, if that's what was going on last year, like he might have been like a third-round draft pick in fantasy drafts before the season started around here because of what we're seeing from him. But we saw him for a full season. And we see the flaws, and okay, he's out there, but he's not open at times. And he goes into this year, and the hype isn't really around him as much. But he's having a really good camp. I mean, the day I was up there only one day, and that was that couple of Fridays ago when he caught touchdown after touchdown in the red zone drills, and he just kept. It was like, by the way, whispering another Justin Ross touchdown. Holmes to Justin Ross again in the end zone. I was there that day, and I'm like, good God, they keep throwing it to Justin Ross.
But, okay, you were there for the 10-10-10 day, weren't you?
I don't know if that was a 10-10-10 day.
They weren't in pads that day?
They were in pads that day.
They were in pads that day?
Yeah,
okay.
So it was
it was okay.
It wasn't the Friday. Yeah, it was the last Friday they had before the games. So because before last week's game, they had that Friday off. So it was a couple of Fridays ago.
Yeah.
But they were in pads, and it was like the Justin Ross practice. And I'm like, man. But I still don't feel the hype around him that I did last year. But I feel like he's like making the squad. If he makes the squad this year, it feels so much more of like he's making the squad because he's a worthy receiver than more of, I don't know if last year was just sort of like a mascot, but it like felt like the hype was there, and we're going to keep Justin Ross here because we're keeping 7 guys, and we don't really know who's who with our receiving corps, so we're going to keep a bunch and see what we've got.
I mean, and this is, I mean, I will be a little bit critical here because I think that, and they're good people and everything like that, but I think that the Chiefs social team and the video team did not do this kid any favors last year.
I agree with that.
Because there was absolutely zero reason to be hyping him up and putting all of these videos. I mean, I know they're doing it for clicks and everything like this, but to me it seems like a little bit of the left hand and the right hand not working in coordination, because if I'm on the personnel and the coaching side and I'm seeing all this hype and I'm seeing all these clicks and everything like this and seeing the highlights, I'm going to be like, hold it back a little bit because this that's not what he is right now.
Yeah.
And I thought at the time it was an incredible disservice because it's like, no, I mean, and I give Justin Ross credit for this because he's come back from a couple of injuries that might have ended a lot of people's careers. But that's the other part of it too, is that he's not played a ton of football in the last few years, because remember, I mean, he had really one, abbreviated season in college, but then he didn't play football his first year as a pro. He didn't play football, before his last year in college. So, he hadn't had a full season of football until last year, and even that was not a full year of football because he didn't play a full year of football. I mean, he was, reserved most of the season, was inactive a lot of the season, so he still hasn't played a full season. He has not had a full season of football since what, like 2019?
2019, I think, was the last one.
So yeah, I mean that tells you a lot there, just about all the challenges that he's been through, and I think that's admirable. But is the full, for all of his athleticism and his speed and his size, which his size just can't be coached and is ridiculous.
Just different. It sticks
his
out.
Body control, hands. There's all these elements that you look at that, and that's great. But he is still picking up the football part of it. And like last year, where I will say his improved in camp this year is that he's improved with an understanding of the offense. Last year, you could just bet that if they had to stop a play because somebody was rolling up in the wrong spot, anything like that, it was Justin Ross, because he still just didn't have a good grasp of the offense and where to line up, what his route was, any of these things. I mean, he was still swimming. This year, I mean, you're seeing a lot more confidence, but I think you're also seeing that the Chiefs figuring out what he's best at and letting him do that. So is Justin Ross a 1,000-yard receiver? Yeah. No. Can he go out and moss a few people and everything for some touchdowns and maybe have a, hey, I think this is still, I think, high. If he had 30 catches for 450 yards and 6 touchdowns, I mean, I would be popping champagne if I'm the Chiefs. I mean, that would be an absolutely fantastic season. If he could have even a Jody Fortson kind of season, I mean, I think that's a good season for Justin Ross. But I think expectations are the key, and I think his camp has been better this year. I'm not sure I think it's been as great as some other people have, because I guess I've seen every single practice, so I see the little things are still there. I mean, the ones I'll tell you right now. I mean, on what we're talking about on a fade down the sideline, he's the best receiver on the team. Better than McCole, better than Hollywood Brown, better than Xavier, McCole, anybody else. Best receiver on the team. Any other route combination, he's probably one of the worst 5. And it's just, I mean, some of them, because at his size he's not built for them, but some of them it certainly could be. Maybe it's the injuries that have taken their toll. Maybe it's still just the knowledge of it and everything. So that's my 5 minutes on Justin Ross. If you you were probably just wanting to make chit chat, but
no, I think it's I like the full overall encompassing sort of breakdown of what the Chiefs are looking at, because we're August 27th. I mean, we're 11 days away from cutdown day as to who's going to be on this roster, and I think there's going to be 7 receivers, and I think that's going to be one of the spots that's going to be debated. Is it McCole? Is it Remigio? Is it Sky Moore? Is it Justin Ross? Does Kadarius Toney make the squad? Like, all of those guys sort of battling for 2 positions, it feels like, or 3 positions there after the top 4 wide receivers that are pretty much set. We'll take a timeout, and I want to get into the rosterology and what you've got in some of the decisions that you've put there for the 53-man roster, some of those with the wide receivers, and then just also how you've built the 53, the 25 on offense, 9 offensive linemen, why you went there, the 4 running backs, etc. We'll do that on the other side of the break, and then also what Matt wants to see in the game tomorrow, what he'll be watching, and of course, we got to get him to weigh in on who he thinks the second best cornerback on this Chiefs team is, because that I don't know there is a consensus to, and I don't think the Chiefs know at this point either. We'll take a timeout. More Zone next.
But Dylan says this is number 4 power ballad of all time. No, this is top 3. I mean,
yeah, this is Q105 ranking. So
This
not exactly the Rolling Stone.
I mean, this might even be number 1 power ballad for me all time.
It's pretty badass.
I mean,
maybe I'm crazy. It's true. This is one of those to where whether you can sing or not, you're in your car and you're like, bleep it, man. I'm rocking out right now.
I will date myself here for sure.
I did that for a semester in college.
When I was in college, the song came out.
Oh yeah.
And my friends and I were just we were going to Jeff City because Jeff City was the only place you could get donuts late at night in mid-Missouri back then.
Nice.
Because there was the only place where there was 24-hour donuts. So we're driving to Jeff City, and you're kind of just out in the middle of nowhere there for a moment when you're driving between Columbia and Jeff City. And this song came on, except it was the album version that they're playing at like 2 in the morning and everything. And we were just like, it was the first time we'd heard the song. And it was the album version on top of that, which is like 13 minutes long. And it was just like, oh my, this is the most amazing song ever. And it does not end. This is incredible. And so we were just absolutely banging out and everything.
That's awesome, dude. I do love how, like, music, you can hear a song and you can be immediately taken back to a time and a moment in your life. Like, there are just some certain songs where you're like, for some reason, it was that night, that moment, this instant that you hear it, and you're immediately taken back to it.
Yep.
That's cool about music. Matt Derrick is our guest. Chiefs Digest 41 is the Mike podcast. All right. 7 wide receivers. Real quick, without Hollywood, if Hollywood Brown was healthy, would it still be 7?
For me, it would be.
Okay. 4 running backs, 3 tight ends, 9 offensive linemen. My roster projection that I put together on Monday, everything is exactly the same as yours, except for one difference. I had Remigio instead of Justin Ross. It's the only out of the 25 offensive players. That's the only. And I do think that wide receiver, again, 5, 6. Is that Meatloaf?
that was Springsteen, actually.
Oh, nice. Okay,
yes.
Very good.
Somebody forgot to mute their phone.
Oh, no, it's fine. It's all good, man.
I mean, I've been coming on this show how many years? I mean, you came back, was it 19?
Yeah, so this is your 20th year of being on the show? So
I've never, my first time I have not muted my phone. Oh, my goodness.
The first, I mean, it happens.
And there might have been some times I muted my phone and I'm just not popular enough that anybody called me.
I had a streak of, like, never cursing on the air until Marcus Kemp couldn't catch a bleeping football. And Corey and I were arguing about whose fault that was. And it was like, for some reason, he blamed that on Mahomes. And then there were other times when it's like where he was defending Mahomes. I'm like, if Marcus Kemp could catch up. And I dropped the F-bomb, football. And I'm like, and Corey goes, whoa! And then we had a laugh about it. I'm like, that's the first time that's ever happened in my entire career.
Corey made you curse.
It was
my
really,
takeaway for the story.
It was blaming Patrick Mahomes for Marcus Kemp's interception that bounced off his shoulder pads. But anyway, those things happen. So the 25-man roster that you have for the offense, completely in agreement with 24 to 25. But again, I think some of those guys at the end may be interchangeable, and some injuries may settle that as well. 4 running backs. Does it matter if Carson Steele is a fullback or not, or it's just these are the 4 running backs, and if he does play a little fullback, that's fine, but he's making the team as a running back?
That's exactly the point,
okay.
Which is that he is not making this team as a fullback. If he makes this team, it's because he can play fullback a little bit, but it's going to be because he can do a lot of everything. He can be a running back, he can be an H-back, he can be a tight end, you can split him out. I mean, that's how he's going to make this team. If he's just a fullback who you're only going to use maybe in a handful of snaps a game, he is not making this team. But I think he's more than that. The question for me about at running back is really, I mean, Clyde and Deneric. I mean, 4 is not guaranteed. I mean, 3 is probably at this point more probable. But until Clyde gets back on the field, I don't know where he fits in. And until after this game, because the Chiefs were featuring Steele this week. So the question's going to be next week. I mean, how does Steele perform in this game? Is he still the flavor of the month after this? I mean, I think he's making this team. I mean, he's not going to be, I don't think, the number 2 back, but with number 3 back, certainly. But Clyde and Deneric, I mean, do they both make the team? There's only one. It's not a guarantee.
Watching him on Saturday and then hearing Matt Nagy say he's in the right place at the right time and you can trust him, I'm like, all right, well, if you say that about a running back, then that's trust is 100% for this team. I mean, that's the one thing as a running back.
My only concern about Carson Steele is that I don't know how you can't remember the exact year and occasion for which you received an alligator.
You've had such an amazing and crazy life.
I was like second or third grade. I think it was Christmas. No, I mean, if somebody gave me an alligator, it would be like, like hearing I would do anything for love, but I won't do that. Right. I would know exactly the moment that happened.
We were eating donuts. I know it was a chocolate glaze. It had sprinkles on it. My sister had more sprinkles than me. I remember that. I was very upset about it. How do you remember the details? Because I got a pet alligator that day.
Yes.
How do you not remember everything about that specific day?
I remember the year that I got the Star Wars Star Destroyer playset. I mean, it was Christmas. It was 1978.
And you named that Crocky J too. It's odd.
But how can you not remember the exact moment in time you got an alligator?
Edwards-Helaire he's already played 4 years, so he would technically be a vested veteran, right?
Correct.
Okay. So I wonder.
You're wondering what I'm wondering.
If the Chiefs go with 3 running backs and they let Clyde go, and with the understanding that Clyde also with the understanding, unless he can get on somebody's 53-man roster, which I don't know a team that would say he hasn't been all that productive, and we don't know if he's going to be available, and we don't have all the information the Chiefs do, and they're moving on from him for Deneric Prince and Carson Steele. Is this a guy that we want to then give a 53-man roster spot to, or he just re-signs and signs with the practice squad, and he stays around Julie and everything and what he's been getting here? Because it's not like, hey, you got an ankle injury, we're going to rehab you in a few days, we'll get you back out there. They just don't know. Like one day to the next, they don't know when he's going to be back out there. And the unfortunate part is that obviously he doesn't know at different days.
And since obviously he's come out with it, let's make sure it's the stomach that's been the problem and everything. Yeah. So it's the physical part of it, but this is something he's been dealing with for a few years as well.
The mental part, as you said,
there's a physical part.
It's now manifesting into a physical sickness.
Yeah, and so the physical element of it is what's keeping him off the field right now. But Chiefs have been down this road. They know that that this can be something. Other teams, and like you said, because he's a vested vet, he does not have to go through waivers. He becomes a free agent immediately. So no team can claim him. He can choose his own home. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, I think that, and given the fact that he re-signed with this team in the offseason when he could have signed anywhere else too, I mean, I think that's an indication about where he wants to be. I think the Chiefs want him here. The question is, I mean, would a more appropriate place for him maybe to be the practice squad right now?
Yeah, I want to look at the defense a little bit, and the different players that are there. 5 linebackers, and I've gone back and forth as to whether they're going to keep 5 or 6. I don't think they'll keep 6 because the numbers, you get to 10 defensive backs, 10 defensive linemen. That's only 5 linebackers that are left at that point. But I've wondered with the new kickoff rule, like, okay, do they keep Bolton and Tranquil and Chanel and Cam Jones and Jack Cochran, but then also a Christensen or a Curtis Jacobs if they get to 6 linebackers, because now you're doing more of the special teams part of it. Was there a debate with you at all of like maybe they go 6 linebackers and then they go 5 cornerbacks and 4 safeties? Something along those lines, and by the 5 cornerbacks and 4 safeties, it can really be 6 cornerbacks and 3 safeties, where Connor can be, one or the other, but 9 total defensive backs because you're doing more kickoff. Is there a thought that maybe the Chiefs will go 6 linebackers, or it's tough to do the numbers with them having 6 linebackers on the defense?
It's really tough to do the numbers with 6 linebackers. I mean, it's that would, if you're going to do that, you would have to be saying either it's 9 defensive linemen or 9 defensive backs, one or the other. And even then, again, you would be shortchanging yourself a special teams player because, your 10th defensive back is going to be a special teams player. If it's Deion Bush, that could be somebody who's on your kick cover team, already. Yeah. So if it's a defensive lineman, I mean, are you going to go into the season with 4 edge rushers? Mm-hmm. I mean, that's actually a possibility because I just don't know if this team has a 5th edge rusher on his team. They've got some concerns there, but you look at how that the Chiefs are at least stacking that return unit. I mean, and remember, it's special teams, so it's not all defensive players, but you're going to have like a Noah Gray is going to be out there. Deneric Prince has been out there. I mean, these are players of size that can handle, being out there on special teams and being out there on kick teams. So is it the skill set of a linebacker? No. But here's the other part of it, too, that I think makes sense to me, which is that if you're the Chiefs, you have 5 linebackers. I think absolutely you're going to try and get Curtis Jacobs, Cole Christensen, Swayze Bozeman. I think you got
on name alone.
I think exactly. I think you got 3 linebackers there you'd love to have on your practice squad.
Yeah.
There's 9 practice squad elevations. And honestly, I mean, you could release Cole Christensen and re-sign him and reset his clock. There's 12 during the regular season. So you could have a 6 linebacker, add him back every single week if you wanted to.
Linebackers, maybe it's because of my optimism, and I know Cam Jones has performed well when he's needed to, especially on special teams. Maybe it's my optimism, but I went Curtis Jacobs over Cam Jones for now, and I know I know they like Cam Jones, and again, maybe it's my own sort of bias in wanting to see Curtis Jacobs on this team because he just reminds me so much of Drew Tranquill if he just got more experience and more time to be out there. And it's also maybe because he wore 23 at Penn State that he reminds me of Drew Tranquill. But the athleticism and the skill set sort of intrigues me. And it's not like they're choosing him over, Chenal or Tranquill or Nick Bolton. It's Cam Jones or Curtis Jacobs or something like that. And maybe it's Cochran or Curtis Jacobs. Or maybe it's Curtis Jacobs is so far down the depth chart that he's not even in the conversation. But.
I mean, I think he's the 6th guy for sure, and they like Bozeman too. I mean, I think those 2 are really close.
Yeah, we'll take a timeout and we'll see what Matt Derrick is going to be watching for tomorrow against the Detroit Lions. We'll take a timeout. More Zone next.
watching for sure is, how do you answer some of these questions about depth chart and who's going to be where? Watch who's playing in the first half and watch who's playing with the ones. That'll give you a really good indication. So, guys like Curtis Jacobs, Nico Remigio, let's see if they get any time because, it's the roster's been pared down. I mean, now it's really going to be kind of ones and twos. It's not really ones, twos, threes, and fours as much anymore. I mean, there's still going to be a little bit of threes, but, that first half is going to be played mostly by guys who are making this team. So it's going to be, hey, keep an eye on that.
Quick sidebar to that. In your time covering the Chiefs, how much of an idea do you think, or how much of the picture of the 53-man roster is painted at this point in time for the Chiefs, even though there's still 11 days? But how much of that picture do you think is already painted?
I think there's probably, in their minds, I wouldn't be surprised that there's 49 or 50 spots locked up. I mean, that they are that close.
Yeah.
It's just, and because, you look at it at practice, and honestly, I mean, it's maybe 56 or 57 players who are, getting work with the first teams. I mean, it's that narrow. So, I mean, we're talking like Nico Remigio. I don't think I saw him get a single snap with the first team offense this week.
Interesting.
I mean, ton of time with the twos and start the twos, but right now it looks like he's on the outside trying to work his way back in.
Yeah. I wish he wouldn't have jumped for the ball. Like, obviously, I wish he wouldn't have fumbled. But if he didn't jump for the ball, like, he might have scored. Like, it might have been a touchdown. Maybe that's a learning experience. I don't know. I
mean, I guess it's a little bit of a, Germany had a great century except for, the 2 world wars. But Remigio had a great game except for the fumble and the muff.
Right.
I mean.
Exactly. Except for muffing a punt and fumbling that. And I don't think he was down. I will tell you.
I thought he was down both times, but.
So I don't know if they did anything different with the Chiefs broadcast because I was watching the Jags broadcast, which, by the way, never a mention of Hollywood Brown. Never a shot of Hollywood Brown on the sideline. Nothing. Never mentioned him. Never anything.
And that's crazy because I thought they even used the same video, but
they clearly do not. No. And then they only did like one replay of Remigio, and it was like from 30 yards away. Like you couldn't even really see, and they didn't pause it or slow it down to where it's like, okay, this is where the ball comes out. And so I'm like, this is rough. So I didn't know what other people saw, but from the Jags broadcast view, I'm like, he didn't look down to me. But I don't know if there was different views that the Chiefs one used. But yeah, the play-by-play guy for the Jags. I mean, obviously he's there for the Jaguars, but the amount of things that he got wrong about the Chiefs was just
I thought he was down twice. I thought he was down when they touched him the first time because I thought he still has knee on the ground, and then when he went down the second time, I thought he was down before the ball came out.
Yeah, it's interesting. All right. Anything else besides like sort of a general like, hey, look for who's anything? Actually, you know what? Who's the second best cornerback on the team? I was going to ask you that.
Yeah, we hadn't got to that yet.
Damn it. We'll talk next Friday about it too. But who is it? In your mind?
I mean, in my mind right now, Jalen Watson.
Okay.
Najee Johnson can still get there, but I think Jalen's the number 2.
Interesting, Najee. Okay, because it's 5-1 Jalen Watson to Joshua Williams. Sterling is staying with Williams, and I have gone from Williams in the offseason to Watson currently now, but I haven't gone the Najee after Watson. I'm still with the Williams after Watson.
I mean, from a confidence standpoint, time standpoint, they might just be more comfortable with Joshua behind Watson if something. But I think eventually, sooner than later, I think it'll be Najee.
All right, we'll see what happens. Matt, you're the man as always, brother. Appreciate it.
You're the best, man.
All right, we'll talk next week when all the preseason games are over, and we'll be a few days away from the cut-down day on the 27th. More Zone, we'll talk with Tommy Thrall. We'll get the Cincinnati Reds side of the matchup coming up this weekend next. until 2 o'clock. Thank you to Matt Derrick. Chiefs Digest 41 is the Mike podcast, presented by Cap One Lending, breaking down the Chiefs and his rosterology in the previous hour, looking at some of these questions and decisions that are going to be made by the Chiefs a week from Tuesday and tomorrow's preseason game number 2. Starting tonight, the Royals with a big series against the Reds. We talked in the first hour with Jack Johnson about how this feels like one of those sneaky, important series that while, yes, on paper, this is a team the Royals are playing that is under 500, but that is not how this team is playing right now. Joining us to talk about the Reds side of the matchup, it is voice of the Cincinnati Reds and Northwest Missouri State Bearcat, Tommy Thrall, joining us here in the zone. Tommy, what is up, brother?
Hey, what's happening? Always good to chat with a fellow Bearcat. I've had some Bearcat visitors up here in Cincinnati a few times here over the last couple of weeks.
You mean not Cincinnati Bearcats, though?
Not Cincinnati Bearcats.
Yes,
no. Our Northwest Missouri State. Actual Bearcats.
They came, yes, exactly, the real Bearcats. They came just to visit you, or they happened to be in the area and they said, "Hey, I'm a Bearcat."
A little of both.
Okay, great.
Both. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. John Coffey, Mark Rosewell.
Nice.
Tennis coach. Austin Meyer was up here.
Oh, really?
So,
how about that, man? That's awesome. My son was a little disappointed in that, we were in Louisville last weekend for my wife's high school reunion, and he was like, "Dad, they play the Reds next weekend." I'm like, I know. We would have made the trip, buddy. We would have gone up there and made the trip to watch the Reds and Royals game. I said maybe one day that'll work out and we'll be able to do that. But because the Reds are my in-laws team, so my father-in-law,
are they really?
He records every single Reds game, and whether he knows the score or not, he watches it at night or the next morning. He'll
big fan,
dude. It's crazy how big of a fan he is in that he knows they lost 4-1, and yet he turns it on and watches the whole game.
See,
it's crazy.
That brings a smile to my face.
It is unbelievable.
I respect that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I do too, man. I'm like, you know what? Good for you, because they'll be like, well, I'm going to go in and watch the game. I'm like, we just talked about them, winning 5-2. Like, what are you doing?
You might want to introduce them to the FastCast that
I
they
know,
have
right?
on MLB.com. He can watch the whole thing in 20 minutes.
He doesn't want to do that. He wants to watch his game, man. And my wife tells stories about, he'd be sitting around, or she'd be sitting around, and at night he'd be outside and listening to, WLW and listening to the Reds while he was in Louisville at night. So, yeah, huge fan.
Smart guy.
Yes,
smart guy.
exactly.
You should probably spend more time with him.
I know. He was like, I don't know about who this guy is that's replacing Marty. I'm a little tired of this little punk. I'm not sure what he's about, but he kind of reminds me of you Kansas City punks that are out there, And I'm like, well, funny you mentioned that, because he is. But let's talk about.
Now I think you're making stuff up. But.
maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah,
right. He's like, if I know one Kansas City guy, I know them all. I'm like, that's fine.
All the same.
Yes, that's right. So we talk about it from the Royals' perspective of how they're playing right now and getting ready for this weekend matchup. The Reds coming off the sweep of the Cardinals. What's the feeling around there with this club getting ready for this matchup that, nationally will be billed Ellie v. Bobby, Bobby v. Ellie for these 3 games?
Well, that's the part that I think you have to get really excited about. There's probably some underlying storylines like Michael Lorenzen coming back, the team that drafted him, developed him. He'll be pitching tonight, obviously, for the Royals. So that'll be interesting to kind of see him and where he's at, because he's a different guy than when he left here. Primarily a reliever. Now he's back to starting again. So I think that's good. But this is a Reds team that they're bipolar in a sense, because when they are playing at their best, they can beat anybody, and they have. I mean, you look at what they've done against the Dodgers, the Yankees. They've beaten some of the teams with the best records in baseball, and when they're playing at their best, they are very capable of that, and that's because they're pitching. And this is a team that has really good starting pitching. Nick Martinez, start of the year out of the bullpen. His last 2 appearances have been in the rotation. Now he's in the rotation with injuries like the one to Graham Ashcraft, the trade of Frankie Montas opened up a rotation spot. So he is a fixture now in the rotation, and he has been outstanding. His first 5 starts didn't go very well. He pitched brilliantly out of the bullpen. Now it seems like he's kind of figured out the whole starting thing, which is what he wants to do. So that's been kind of fun to see that transformation. Hunter Green has turned into a bona fide ace.
Yeah.
Andrew Abbott's a guy that goes out and competes. It's really been fun to kind of see this whole thing come together. The question mark with this team is not the pitching; it's the lineup. Can they hit consistently? When it all comes together, they're a team that puts the ball in play. They move base runners. It reminds me of the Royals teams in 14 and 15 when they kind of had that saying, the keep the line moving mantra. When this Reds team's firing at their best, that's what they do. They keep the line moving. They don't try to do too much of the plate. They don't strike out. But then they'll go through stretches where they do strike out a lot, and they can't get anything going offensively. So it's hard to figure out.
Yeah.
But it seems like pitchers that they're familiar with are the guys they seem to have a little more success with. They should be pretty familiar with the guy going tonight.
Yeah, and there's a lot of similarities between these two clubs because the Royals have been, living on their starting pitching, and do they get enough offense from night to night with a lineup that has a superstar there in the middle that can carry you for a game or two or three or a series. But on Nick Martinez, he goes tonight against Michael Lorenzen, and how good he's been as of late. That's got to be, somewhat of a surprise, or maybe a big surprise, or a welcome addition for the Reds. How much were they, counting on him, or thinking that he could be a guy that can give them, a 3 ERA, a 1 WHIP, and 75 strikeouts to 10 walks on the season? Because he's been a middle relief guy, he's been a short inning relief guy. So how much of a surprise is it the way that he's pitching right now is to be a fixture and a mainstay in the rotation?
I think it's one of those things where it probably falls somewhere in the middle there. I don't know that it's necessarily a surprise that he's able to help this team out. But then again, I don't think that you go out and you expect him to post back-to-back scoreless starts either. I think you kind of expect him to be a guy that's in the threes with his ERA, and that can be kind of a reliable fourth or fifth starter. Last 2 times out, though, he's been outstanding. 12 innings without allowing a run. His last time out, just 1 hit over 7 against a really good Milwaukee team. That was a game the Reds ended up losing 1-0. It was an incredible baseball game, and he pitched his tail off. Unfortunately, a late home run won it for the Brewers. But they knew he could pitch. In spring training, to be honest, going all the way back to March, he was probably the pitcher that stood out the most of anybody. He was really impressive. I always go back to this one start he had against the Dodgers where he was facing their A lineup, and that's when he kind of saw the flashes of, wow, when this guy's on, he is really, really good. And that's who he is. When he is on, he's really good. He moves the ball around, he locates, he doesn't leave things in the middle of the plate, he's got decent stuff, but really just knows how to pitch. And the times he gets hit around, I think he gets too much of the plate, he falls behind, he gets into hitters' counts, and lately he just hasn't been doing that. So if he can keep this role going that he's on right now, you want to ride that wave as long as you can, but I don't know that this is the expectation. He's the last couple times out, he's pitched like a boss, and I don't think that's who the Reds were expecting to get with Nick Martinez, but he's certainly capable of it. I think that next level is just the guys that do it start in and start out.
Yeah, it's funny. We were talking about him on Tuesday randomly because we were looking at Team USA from the 2021 Olympics in Tokyo that finished second to Japan. That, Nick Martinez was one of the guys that it's like, oh, yeah, I recognize him. That was on that squad because it was all minor leaguers and guys that pitched in Japan at the time.
Right.
And he was one of those guys. But yeah, so he'll be going tonight. Talk to me and tell me a little bit about what you've seen from Elly De La Cruz. We get to watch Bobby Witt every day, and it's just a treat to be able to do that, to watch somebody who's one of the best in baseball with the power, speed, defense, arm, just ability to play the game that looks somewhat easy at times for a superstar. And you've got to enjoy the same thing the last 2 years with Elly De La Cruz. What are you seeing from him as to where he's gone from a guy that, hey, is he ever going to have much of a better on-base percentage than batting average, to now he's getting on base almost 100 points higher, and it's 350 on-base percentage, which I think most people would have probably settled immediately for if you said, hey, Elly De La Cruz is going to get on base at like 350 at times in his career. Okay, hell yeah, because that guy can probably steal 70 bases. Oh, wait, So what are you seeing, and what's been going on with Ellie as to how he's taken a step forward from this guy's got the potential to be a superstar to then, oh wait, yeah, this guy is a superstar?
I think it's fair to really look at Bobby Witt and Ellie and kind of compare them side by side. Keep in mind, this is Ellie's second year. Bobby's in his third year. And I think when you look at where Ellie's at in his second year and where Bobby was at in his second year last year, the numbers are eerily similar.
Interesting.
And now I think the one thing that Ellie probably will always do more than Bobby is strike out a little bit more. But a lot of that, I think, is because Ellie's a really long guy. The long levers, I think, lend itself to being more susceptible to a strikeout. So he's going to strike out a lot, and he's going to strike out probably more than Bobby, but he's going to steal a few more bases. I just think we're really seeing Ellie start to showcase what he's capable of, which I think is a superstar. And Bobby, too, he talked about it the other day during the game, is you're looking at a couple of players in the game right now that are probably the two most electric players. I'm not necessarily going to say they're the best, but you'd be hard-pressed to find two guys that are truly more electric and that can really take over a game with every facet of what they do. The defense, both guys run like the wind. They can hit for power. They can hit for average. And then once they get on base, they can change a game. And it's fun to watch Ellie get on base. I'm sure it's the same with Bobby because pitchers might be in a great rhythm. Ellie gets on, they completely change the way they're going about their business. And they can get so out of sync so fast, especially if he's able to steal second. It completely changes an inning a lot of times. So both of them really electric. Both of them can take over a game. They can take over a series if they get hot. We're really starting to see that with Ellie, too. I think he's taking his game to another level. I think his strikeouts are going to drop a little bit more as he learns how to hit even a little more, but he just keeps getting better and better and better, it seems like, all the time. And the thing about him, if he has a bad game, a bad series, he doesn't just kind of ease out of it with a couple of knocks spraying the ball all over the place. He will break out and explode out of that. And the slumps are starting to become a lot more infrequent, and they are not lasting nearly as long.
Tommy Thrall is our guest, voice of the Cincinnati Reds. Mike McFarland, you're familiar with. He was on the show this morning with Steven St. John, and they were talking about Ellie De La Cruz and the 59 stolen bases and what do you do when he gets to first. And McFarland essentially was like, with the rules about, and I think the way he put it was, you can only throw over there a couple times. I think it's exactly how he said it. But he's like, with the new rules, he's like, you just have to focus on the batter. He's like, I'm not pitching out because these guys are so fast and so explosive. I'm not throwing over there because then does it become more likely then he's going to get a bigger lead and go. He's like, I got to focus on the batter, and it's one of those things where it's tough. You pitch it, I'm going to throw down to second, try to get him. But, I'm not doing the different things to get out of my game because he's over there at first. And that has to be, Tommy, you've watched it all year long, that has to be so easier said than done. Even if that might be the strategy when you got a guy on first and you're like, well, damn, I don't want him to be at second, especially then he's at second. A base hit in the outfield is going to score the guy. That sounds like a great and sound strategy. I just don't know how easy that is to implement with pitchers when Ellie's at first base, when the guy is on pace to steal 79 bags this year.
I think there's honestly, I think there's a little bit of that goes on. Well, there's definitely a little of that goes on. You don't really see pitch outs much. You want to throw over to first, but you don't want to do it too much.
Yeah. Because
not that you can, but the numbers show that the more you throw over, the more likely, the better the odds are of you successfully stealing second. I mean, and it goes through the roof. The odds are already pretty high, and then they go through the roof with each subsequent pickoff attempt. So he's right in that regard. The one thing that we've seen perhaps be the most effective is pitchers varying their times to plate. Pitchers get into habits, and whether that's you come set, you look once, you go to the plate. You come set, you look twice, you go to the plate. Things like that. When guys pick up on that, whether that's our coaching staff, whether that's the base runners or Ellie himself, it's once you get that figured out and you become predictable, that's when you have no chance. So I think varying those little things, being aware of what your tendencies are as a pitcher, and then knowing what the scouting report is and figuring out a way to vary that, that's how you have success mitigating the running game, especially with Ellie. He hadn't been running as much lately because teams have been doing a better job of that. So that'll be worth keeping an eye on to see how the Royals handle that.
Was this something in spring training where, because he came out of the gates and was just stealing bases left and right, and he was, so quickly getting such a large lead in the stolen base category over everybody else, and he currently leads by 23 over the next closest guy. Was this something in spring training that was a goal to be, way more active on the base paths? Is it, just something that was always going to be a part of his game, and now he's on base at 50 points higher this year than he was a year ago? Why are we seeing a guy with 24 stolen bases more this year than he had all of last year?
Well, one, he's been up the whole year. I think that's the important thing to keep in mind. He wasn't up for the full season last year. So I think that's a factor. This team really promotes running. I mean, they want guys to run as much as humanly possible. And to the extent where it makes sense, like don't get reckless, but like I was talking about before, they do so much to make sure that they have the best chance of success as they can have stealing bases. So if you're going to go. And I think he's learning along the way that there is a time and a place. You don't need to get thrown out stealing third when you're down 5 and you're at second to lead off an inning, and now you're the first out at third when you're down by a bunch. Those are the lessons that he's having to learn right now, and I think he is, because he's learning the game more and more, and you're starting to see the instincts take over a little bit more. He's getting more comfortable with the game. All of these things are positives for him, but I think it's more about just the team really emphasizing running. The Reds, they've been 1 or 2 in baseball all year in stolen bases. That's because that is a full team mindset, not just Ellie.
Tommy Thrall is our guest, voice of the Cincinnati Reds. The old adage in baseball, momentum's only as good as the next day starting pitcher, which is, fun to say and in theory, but I think there's oftentimes, there can be more to that, or more to momentum, or more to how a team is playing overall, or how an individual player feels at the plate in a particular game or a stretch of baseball. And I bring that up because, we have been paying very close attention here in Kansas City with other teams' records. Okay, this team is 12-1 against the White Sox, and look what they've done against the Tigers. But against everybody else, they're below 500. And when they've played sub 500 teams, this is what they've done. When they've played teams above 500, this is what they've done. It's been a big narrative for this Royals team this year, and so I bring that up because on paper, this is a sub 500 team the Royals are going up against in 60 and 61 Cincinnati Reds, but it is not a direct comparison that I think back to the 2014 Royals, because I'm not predicting a World Series run for this Reds team, but the feeling in 14 was they sort of burst onto the scene in 13. They spent the offseason saying, now we're going to, take the next step forward, and the beginning part of the year, it just didn't happen. And it was like, why is this not working? Why have they not taken a step forward? But then after the All-Star break, things turned around and changed, and they became a team that people thought they would be going from 2013 to 2014. Again, not predicting that this team is going to be, a World Series champion next year, but is that close to the feel around there in that, what last year happened and, getting to above 500 and then going into this offseason and the hope and the optimism of this year that it just wasn't working, but now this team has gone from, I think, 7 games under 500 to now right at 500 and only 4 games back in the wild card?
Yeah, I think I like that comparison a lot. I think this team has sputtered more than the 14 Royals, and I just feel like there's just the offense is a part of that. If I remember right, the Royals in 14 were pretty healthy most of the year. The Reds have endured some major injury losses. Graham Ashcraft wasn't quite the starting pitcher this year that I think he was expected to be. I think that's a hit. And now he's hurt, and realistically, he's out for the year. The big injury was Matt McClain. He's this team's everyday second baseman. You could argue, and this is with a guy like Ellie that's a budding superstar, you could argue Matt McClain is the best player on this team. And the Reds have been without him all year, and they may not get him back this year. He's had some setbacks during his rehab. So the hope is that he will still be back next month. But with every day that his rehab gets pushed back, that becomes less and less likely. He's just a ball player. He's a grinder. He's steady. You know what you're going to get out of him. I think that has been the biggest deficit for this team this year. And then you have a guy like Noelvi Marte that was suspended for the first half of the season. They get him back, and he's been feeling his way back the whole way. I mean, it is as tough as anything in this game to rejoin a team midway through the year. Another big bat that they had last year, and their everyday first baseman is Christian Encarnacion Strand. He's been out most of the year, too. He's not going to come back this year. So those are the things that I think have plagued this team. And, we can, whine about the small market stuff all we want. But the reality of this game is it's not like the Reds, the Royals, most of the teams in baseball except for a select few at the top. There's not many teams that can have enough depth to have, replacement level players at every position in case of injuries. The Reds went out, made some moves. They got a guy like Santiago Espinal, who's a good backup infielder. And to be honest, he could probably play every day if you're in a pinch and you need it. And then they also got Jamer Candelario in the offseason. Everybody thought when they signed him, well, where are those at-bats going to come from? Well, he's been an everyday player easily all year, and they've needed him. So they already had a couple of pieces in place, and they still haven't been able to weather the injury storm. So I think that's a big part of it. I guess to answer your question before is, yeah, I think we are kind of seeing this team come together with the personnel that they've got. But like everybody else, they've been hot and cold. They need to stay hot the rest of the way to stay in the race. And to do that, they're going to need to figure out a way to continue to hit. And when they're not hitting, find ways to manufacture runs.
Tommy Thrall, voice of the Cincinnati Reds. Last one for you. Does David Bell finish all three games, in the dugout this weekend against the Royals?
He is drastically cut back on his ejections, but
that's
he
too
is
bad.
now the Reds' most all-time ejected manager. So he does have that feather in his cap. Yeah, I would say yes. He finishes all three games, manager.
Okay. Last question for you, and I need you to answer this as Denny Matthews. Just a quick breakdown of the pitching matchup tonight with Michael Lorenzen and Nick Martinez there in Cincinnati, game one of an important three-game set. So as Denny Matthews, how would you sort of describe this upcoming series?
Michael Lorenzen gets the ball for the Royals, making his first start against the team that drafted and signed him, that he broke into the big leagues with, against Nick Martinez, a guy that has been pitching very, very well. Couple of back-to-back scoreless outings for Nick Martinez. It's the Royals and the Reds coming up shortly.
Ding, ding. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
It's out of practice, man.
No.
It's not a cool party trick up here in Cincinnati like it was down there.
I am with you. I lived 10 years in a different city that it's like, oh, what's your best impression? Well, it's brought to you by the parking spot. Easy to spot, easy to park.
Ding,
parking
ding.
spot at KCI. And they're like, I don't know who that is. I'm like, it's Denny Matthews, voice of the well, son of a gun. This does not play here. And my wife doesn't care for any impression whatsoever. She'd like a better impression of me just being a good husband. I mean, can you do an impression of that, Jason, from time to time? That'd be great. I'd appreciate that more than Denny Matthews.
Takes way more work, doesn't it? That's tough. That's a tough one to get.
You're right. Yeah, the party trick doesn't work in Cincinnati. But when we have you on the air here, then it's great. Then it's fun.
Just so far out of practice, man. It's not what it used to be. I wish I
No, it was good. It was good. It's the way I remembered it, Tommy. Okay, it's the way I remembered it.
Great.
Tommy Thrall, voice of the Cincinnati Reds, Northwest Missouri State Bearcat. Tommy, love talking to you. Love catching up. Love the success that you're having there in Cincinnati. Would love the Royals to get a sweep this weekend as well. But as always, brother, really appreciate talking to you, man.
Always great. Thanks so much, Jason. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. There's Tommy Thrall. He's the voice of Cincinnati Reds, Royals, Reds, coming up tonight.
Ding, ding.
You can watch it on Valley Sports. Thanks, Ryan. Thanks, Tommy. All right, more is on next. All right, we'll continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you. Mick Schaefer, KSHB 41 Sports Director, and Dylan Michaels. Thank you to Tommy Thrall, Northwest Missouri State Bearcat.
Were you guys there together at the same time?
We were. We were in the sports department together. We would switch off play-by-play and color commentary between, like, games. So, like, football games, one week I'd do the play-by-play, he'd do color next week, and then basketball, same thing. And neither of us did baseball, yet he's now the voice of the Cincinnati Reds. And I'm in here talking about baseball. Yeah. You know, that's one of us made it, and the other one's talking to Mick Schaefer.
How good were your skills compared to his back in the day doing play-by-play?
I thought my football play-by-play was better. His basketball was better, and his baseball clearly is better. But my football play-by-play, I think, was a little bit better.
I've done,
but that was also my original dream. That's what I would do in junior high and high school. I would turn the TV down and just do radio play-by-play of the games and record it on a little cassette tape thingy. Yep. And so in college doing it, it's like that was easy for me. And then got into the sports radio side, and now it's like, oh,
dummy.
You're a sports radio host. You can't be a play-by-play announcer. Nobody can do both. Not Kevin Kugler.
Nobody says that.
Actually, you know what? You can't do both. Is what
you
we're saying.
can't.
It's not that it can't.
Other people can.
Yeah, it's like the good ones can do both.
You
can't.
I've done enough of lots of sports. Volleyball, I'm just horrible at. Just so bad. And it was before my daughter got into volleyball. I feel like I'd be better now because I actually know some of the terms. Like, oh no,
right.
It's up there, and she hits it again, and they don't get it. And there's a point to both teams are celebrating. I can't tell who wins the point because in volleyball you celebrate after you win or lose a point. But
that is a great point.
They always do.
That is so true.
That's girls and how girls and boys are different in competitive sports. Boys are gonna hit a shot. A lot of times, just come back with a frown on their face. Yeah. You look like they're mad. They're not looking up, waving at their grandma or anything like that. Girls are they're so happy to be out there. And it's not that they're not. I've learned that it's not that they're not competitive.
Yeah.
That's just how they deal with stuff. Right. We're gonna be happy when we win. We're still going to be happy when we lose a point.
I'm watching the Olympics, and there's a country that's down like 0-2, right, in a best of 5, right? So 0-2, you're in the third set, you got to win, and they're down by like 5 points, and they get a shot at point, and they're celebrating and high fiving. Let's go! I'm like, you're done. You can't win this. You're not coming back.
The difference, girls are coachable, so they'll hear a coach say, "We've got to maintain our positive energy the entire time, whether we're up big or down big." Boys hear the same thing. They're just like, that's stupid.
Yeah, no,
I'm writing my emotions right here. What are you talking about?
Pretty sure we're down 2 sets already. We're down.
It's over.
7 points.
I'm gonna with my body language. I'm gonna be a jerk.
Yeah. Although I did find out at my wife's high school reunion that she wasn't as coachable as she claimed to be.
That's great to hear.
Interesting. Now I know where Everett gets it from.
There we go.
Okay, because
I
was very coachable because I was on the
I
sideline.
Maintained eye contact, and I said, "Yes, sir."
I was on the sideline with the coaches saying, "Yep, that's right. That's what you should be doing.
You should do that out there, athlete.
Yeah, do that. That's a good one, Coach Jones. That's a great. You know what, Coach Wams? Great call. I'm with you on that one. Option right. Yep, I thought that was option left now. Yeah. Nope, that's fullback dive. Agreed. Yep, I'm totally option right. Good call. Good call, sir. Love it.
It's funny, you were number 1 on the Lee Summit North depth chart in football for future sports talk radio host.
That's right.
You were first string.
Most likely to not play in a game, but talk about it while other people are playing the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was most likely to do that, yeah.
I think basketball play-by-play was always the easiest for me. I think it's just because the action's always going.
Yeah,
and then football was, not easy, but I took to it better. Baseball, just, man, it's long breaks.
It's a sports radio show with one person.
It is. That's exactly what it is. Interrupted by a few groundouts.
Yes. It's why the Harry Carey impressions were always so great about, he's telling a story at a bar, the night before, and there's your ground ball. Well, that's actually Denny Matthews. But, you get the point.
Do you have a Harry Carey impression?
I at one point, I think it's just I'm doing an impression of Will Ferrell doing an impression of Harry Carey is what it ends up being. My impression is what Frank Caliendo's doing an impression of. Like, I can do an impression of what Frank Caliendo's doing.
It's a copy of a copy, right? It's never
exactly
as good, but it still works.
No, so I used to, but like that was the great part is like, you would implement, there's a grand slam. And so anyway, like we're talking there and this guy's ordering me a beer, triple play there on the, it's like, you just ignore what's going on. It's just sort of the background fodder that got you here to tell this story on the air. Yeah. But it is the most conducive medium or sport to actually have multiple voices to be talking. Yet it's is the one that has one voice that talks, and when you hear a second one interject, you're like, "Whoa, what are you doing?"
When did he get in the room?
Did somebody slap that man? Why did he talk? Whoa, this is a one-man booth. You get the next inning, sir. All right, you calm down a little bit. I know that you just interjected about what the batting average is, but hey, sit back a little while, enjoy it. Let my man breathe a little bit.
You'll have playoff NBA basketball with a 3-man teams, right? And there's nonstop action there. But with baseball, and I get on TV on the TV side, they'll sometimes have 3-person booths and all that stuff.
ESPN Monday Night Football with Booger on the sideline on the cart going back and forth while being a part of the play-by-play booth, even though he wasn't in the booth.
Yeah. Well, and then you have on the other channel 4 dudes just in the corner on the field, led by McAfee, right, and all those guys.
Yep. Have you seen the Patriots preseason setup?
No.
Oh, boy.
I gotta check it out.
So they've got the McCourty twins and another guy
yeah, I did see that.
in a booth.
Yeah.
But then they got Hoyer and like the actual play-by-play guy in like a separate studio with a couple of telestrators.
I thought the McCourty...
Hoyer does color?
Yeah, I don't even know how to describe this setup.
No, but I thought I saw it because NFL Network was replaying that game.
Yes.
And I saw it. You
thought that was like the halftime show?
No, I thought the McCourtys were the play-by-play and color. I thought they were the broadcast team.
Same.
Because that's the only view I saw. Every time they went, I didn't have it up. It was on mute. But every time it went to show the broadcasters, it was the McCourty brothers. And I was explaining to my son, I'm like,
do you know which was which?
No.
I didn't.
And when they didn't have the names, I'm like, yeah, they played in the NFL. They were brothers that played in the NFL.
Did they both play for the Patriots?
Yeah.
I think at one point.
So the way you tell the difference is one has 3 rings, the other has 1 ring.
That's awesome.
So, yeah.
That's not the haircuts or anything.
Nope.
Show me your hands.
Slight lazy eye on one of them.
No birthmark or anything like that.
One has a dimple in the right cheek, and the other one has 3 rings. The other one only has 1. What happens if they're not wearing the rings? Well, you didn't look at the tan line.
Nobody
That's their fault,
before they turned pro, nobody could tell them apart. Not even mom.
Before they won a championship. I thought that was their broadcast booth. I thought it was just I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. Do you need somebody to really do full play-by-play if we're watching it at the same time?
Right.
You just have 2 guys having a conversation about the game. The Manning brothers do that.
I watch Manning 100% of the time. I watch ESPN when I'm watching Monday Night Football. I watch the Manning brothers.
Yeah. Yep. I do it 95% of the time because the other 5% when the Chiefs
are on,
is the time when I'll have that on the.
It would be fun to record that side and go back and watch. What
I have it on
the.
So whenever the Chiefs are playing, I have it on the side TV. And if there's an interesting conversation or something that's Chiefs related, but when they played the Giants and it was Giants Monday Night Football,
horrible.
Yeah,
it was just all Giants guests they had on.
Yeah,
and every time I look up, it's like they're talking to Michael Strahan or they're talking this. I'm like,
it is Eli.
I know, right? I understood it. I got that. But I'm like, I'll just keep it muted. But I'm like, is there going to be a Chiefs guest? And there probably was. I'm probably the guy that was like, the first half was all Chiefs, you dummy. You were watching the second half, it was all Giants. My bad. It's the Final Four. All of these are it's just a pro Villanova broadcast.
They could have had
You're watching literally the pro Villanova broadcast. The regular broadcast. On the bottom scroll, it says regular broadcast on TBS. Yeah. You're watching the True TV Villanova specific broadcast. Yep. Sorry about that.
They could have had Lawrence Tynes on for perspective from both teams.
That's a great point.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Or John Ross?
Yeah.
Sure.
Both?
Sure.
Kadarius Toney?
Pat Shurmur. He coached the Giants.
There we go.
Coached under Andy Reid.
I like the Kadarius.
Mark Collins, right? Was both, I
I
believe.
like the Kadarius Toney idea of during the game.
Just not playing?
Yeah, just
like that
during
idea?
the game. He's in uniform.
On IG Live.
Yes. He connects via IG Live from the sideline. He's in uniform. And, it's like some of these preseason
who do you
games.
dislike more, Kadarius? Your former team that didn't play yet or the current team that's not playing?
Who lied more about you not being injured but saying you were injured?
Right.
Was it the Giants or the Chiefs last year when you were injured, that you got injured on the throw from Holmes to you that tipped off your hands against the Patriots, and that was the last play you were in that year that you were, quote, injured. Who lied more? What was a bigger lie?
Is that really the last play he was in?
Very last play he was in. But he was injured, Mick. He was injured the rest of the year. He was out for the year with an injury.
That was like week 14, 15, something like that.
Missed the
Middle
rest
of December.
Missed the rest of the year with
Injury.
injury. Right after that play, it must have
just a
shattered
coincidence
his fingers.
too when the camera caught Patrick Mahomes saying, I just can't.
I just bleeping told. Like, I can't.
By the way, those producers have a camera on him for that moment all the time, and they are ready for it.
Oh
so.
yeah, I think you're right. I don't think there's a nanosecond of time.
Yep.
The moment Mahomes steps on the field pregame where he does not have at least one
and
camera on him.
Kelsey as well.
Yep.
And then there is actually, true story, specifically one camera that is now dedicated, I'm not joking, to Taylor Swift.
Really?
There is one, in every broadcast, there is one cameraman that just has to keep it on Taylor Swift the whole time. Whatever her reaction is, they have the camera there set.
I'm sure everyone's gotten settled down over the offseason. They won't be so dramatic this year
totally fine. If you want to check it out on Twitter, Bird Law Expert. That's also a Chiefs
lawyer, a
Twitter
Bird Law
account.
expert,
check him out. He's a Chiefs
very good Twitter account.
Very good Twitter account. He got in it. He tweeted. Something I don't know.
John Elway people again, or just Swifties?
No. It's the people that hate Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce.
Gotcha.
So he tweeted something, and boy, his replies were a cesspool of Swift, and I just don't want to see it. Like I don't want to be bombarded with it. No, it's just they're both terrible people.
Bombarded with it.
Terrible people. Mr. Pfizer.
Let me see Jay-Z one more time at the game, though. I got to see that, or I got to see E40 at another 49ers game,
please.
He's
a sellout.
Yeah.
This is all for PR. You're so dumb you haven't realized this is a PR stunt.
Well, what was it? It was like less than 30 seconds per game, right? She got shown.
Like if that. I mean, it's like, but around here, like whatever. And the tact I've taken with that is it's so funny that people really embraced and talked about a Chiefs star player's relationship with his significant other and loved to talk about that with Pat and Brittany. But somehow Kelsey and Swift, I don't need this, and I just want to watch football. I don't need the drama of somebody's relationship. Oh my God, Brittany and Patrick, how miserable is Patrick around, bro? Oh, she's the worst. Can I tell you how much I hate Brittany? I mean, who does? I don't need to hear about Kelsey and Swift. Are you kidding me? Like, oh, no. You were embracing the soap opera of Chiefs star relationship. Let's embrace it. Let's talk about it.
Well, yeah, I mean, they embraced Patrick and Brittany by not liking Brittany for a long time.
Exactly.
For a long time. I feel like, that's a...
Yeah, so let's embrace the good relationship, or the relationship that you think is fake. No, we'll talk Travis and Taylor.
I feel like that's maybe every celebrity couple, right? Yeah. And that's why celebrities get together to get that sort of attention. Like one's going to be.
So you're saying it's a PR stunt for Kelsey and Taylor Swift?
No, I don't. But I think it's in human nature, I guess, to
you don't think they're going to break up after the November election?
I don't. I don't. That's a long. We're playing the long game. If that's the case,
it's a real long game.
It's a real long game. There, I don't think they're. I bet their politics might not be what a lot of people think they are.
I don't think they're as aligned as people want to make it out to be.
No way, no chance.
Yeah.
I would stand by that. But I think it's just ingrained in us, like celebrities, and like there's two of them. We got to pit one against the other. One's got to wear the white hat. One's got to wear the black hat. We got to, and it doesn't matter that we see them through this tiny little narrow lens of tiny little window. We don't know what's going on 98% of their lives. But what we've seen right here, I'm going to draw absolute hard and fast conclusions on.
Did you see that they weren't like kissing the entire game? Did you see that one time when Patrick looked a little annoyed at the person he's been dating since he was a sophomore in high school and now is a 26-year-old? Can you believe that they would have that interaction? And it's on camera. I know this. I've never had that interaction with my significant other that I really, really enjoy still being married to, who I love and is my best friend. I've never had a reaction like that. And if I do, boy, that can't be a good relationship.
So it's the tabloid, right? They'll take 2,000 pictures of you, right? And there's one where you just look like sad face or like dumb or whatever. Like, can you look? This is her. Actually, it's
I just can't
split
imagine.
second between smiles is what you got her right there. And
How
we're gonna draw
how
a lot
miserable
from this
must
picture.
he be? He's got to be so miserable to be married to the person he's been dating since his sophomore year that he courted.
Let's all remember as well that if this was their favorite team and their favorite
Oh, yeah.
quarterback and their favorite tight end, that
Yeah.
it would be the greatest thing ever.
I mean,
So,
come on. Joe Burrow dyed his hair yellow, and it was like so cool.
It's so aura.
Is it,
you know,
though?
he's got
No,
so much
no,
of a,
not according to me.
Not according to most people with eyes. Cool. All right, we'll take a timeout. We'll come back. By the way, as a quick, did you see the trailer to Grotesquerie?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
The TV show that Kelsey's in, the
Oh.
FX show. He's
Apparently not.
You didn't know that he's in a TV show?
I didn't even know the name of it or that he's in another TV show.
Oh yeah, he's in a TV show.
Oh, is that the
called-
one he's hosting? Maybe?
No.
Oh, then never
That
mind.
just came out. The one that he had been filming all summer. But I'm not going to watch a second of it because it's sort of like a horror.
Horror.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Two
yeah.
syllables there.
Yeah.
What's the gist of it?
Grotesquerie. So it's like
Gross stuff?
demon stuff, like grotesque looking people and murders and other things that are sort
What is
of
his
like
role in this?
I don't know, but there's one. It's like a half-second clip where he just like crosses his face with his hands like back and forth, and then that's it, and it cuts to other things. But it's like
So is he acting in it or is he playing himself? What are we doing?
no, he's acting in it. He's
as,
playing a
as
role.
in a role. Okay.
He's playing a role. Yeah,
Oh,
it's
what's that?
Travis Kelce.
So it's a scary horror film. Okay.
yeah,
gotcha. You
sort
said
of like demonic.
Who's the
other
biggest
world-
star in it?
I don't know her
Is
name.
it him?
But no, you would recognize her. I don't know her.
I'll watch
name.
it. I like a good scare. Little jump scare.
Oh, it was what I think of her as in Jerry Maguire. It was Cuba Gooding Jr.'s wife.
Oh, okay.
In Jerry Maguire, she's the star
Yes.
of the FX
I'm
show.
picturing her. I know who you're talking about.
All right, we'll take a timeout.
Okay.
We'll come back, and I will not watch the trailer for Grotesquerie. You guys can, but
Not even the trailer, huh?
I already watched it once, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know that I'm going to sleep tonight. If you like that stuff, it's a very well done trailer.
You know it's fiction, right?
Huh?
Yeah.
Nope. All right, we'll get into some Chiefs and some Royals with Nick Schaefer. Also, the other TV show that Kelsey's going to be a part of coming up in October.
I just watched the trailer. You're being a baby. You can watch that. It's FX. It's not like they're gonna. It's not gonna be that bad.
Yeah. Well, I watched it closer now, and I was watching it earlier, so where I was only really like listening a little bit. But I think it would have been better if Regina King were cast as the lead
over Niecy Nash.
Yeah, I think it would have been better. And I'm just saying, like, that's what Kelsey told me.
Mm-hmm.
I hope I'm not speaking out of turn by saying that. That he told me that he would have rather.
I'm sure he's fine. He wanted that out there.
Yeah, probably. You know, it's about time he starts letting people know about his demands in Hollywood. September 25th. Episodes on Hulu. It tells the story of a small community plagued by heinous crimes. Detective Lois Tryon, played by Niecy Nash Bates, can't help but take these crimes personally, as if the perpetrator is purposely taunting her. In the first teaser, which dropped today, Lois takes to the town to investigate these crimes in clips juxtaposed with haunting footage of flesh in a meat grinder and mysterious creatures taking sentient form. The Kansas City Chiefs tight end appears in the teaser for a split blink and you miss it second, which has left viewers wanting more.
I want more.
Details about Travis's role are being kept under wraps, but fans on X are guessing that his character is the murderer. Though it's hard to interpret what Kelsey's character's brief hand signal could mean. Travis himself has been keeping mum about the role, but he divulged a few details in a June episode of Good Morning America. Quote, "It's definitely different portraying a character and trying to find the emotions in everything and the understanding of a script and the scene," Travis said. "I feel like an amateur right now." There you go.
Well, that's a big deal. He's in all 10 episodes of an
character.
FX Hulu TV show.
Yeah. Yep.
That's a bit. That's
The story continues here and says, equally as exciting for Travis's big acting stint are Taylor Swift fans. Last year, during Swift's critically acclaimed Eras Tour, the pop hitmaker notably changed the lyrics to her song Karma from "Karma's the guy on the screen coming straight home to me" to "Karma's the guy on the Chiefs coming straight home to me." But with Travis in a horror role, fans look forward to seeing him embody both Swiftian archetypes.
God, shut up.
Good God.
So
Can't we just tell this, like, describe what it is besides the...
he's pretending, he's acting, okay? It's nothing more. So,
the Shake It Off singer who's now dating the tight end for the... you always got to describe him different ways. You can't just say Swift.
You know what's going to really limit him in Hollywood is his height. At 6'6", he's going to be a giant next to all those munchkin actors out there.
Play a buddy cop movie with Tom Cruise. It's like, look at these opposite attract kind of guys.
He just
It's
carries
crazy.
Tom through every doorway. Tom jumps out of his back pocket.
Oh my gosh, Danny DeVito and Arnold.
Yeah, twins. Let's go.
There you go. Absolutely. Do some twins. Kelsey also on October 16th.
Who would be the DeVito role?
Tom
So
Cruise.
somebody like mid-30s or...
What if it is Danny DeVito? I mean,
Or Tom Cruise.
But they got to be same age, though. Right? Because that's the
Yeah.
whole deal with twins.
Kit Harington. He seems smaller fella.
He's a small fella. And they have like similar like dark hair.
Yeah.
They could look alike.
They could be twins.
Although maybe the deal is that you don't want them to look alike.
I don't know. So maybe you go with
Would match up with the first one, yeah. The
Tyreek
original.
Hill. Smaller stature
They do
fella.
not-
Yeah.
They do not look alike. You're right.
See? And they're different sizes.
Nailed it.
Also, October 16th.
Glenn Powell. That's the it guy in Hollywood now.
Glenn Powell, Travis
There you
Kelce.
go.
There you
Although
go.
he's
That's
really
it.
good looking. I think you want somebody not that.
Yeah.
Ooh. Who's the what's his name from Big Bang Theory? He used to be on Roseanne as a kid.
Oh man,
That guy. He could do
that's
it.
a good one.
Yeah.
The guy that's worth like $1 billion.
Oh, he is?
Yeah.
What movie was he in too? He was in a movie where he's the
Johnny Galecki.
Johnny Galecki.
Yeah,
he was
Johnny
in
Galecki.
Christmas Vacation.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes. He was one of the Rusties.
Yes. He's one of the Rusties.
One of the Rusties.
And he's worth a boatload of money. A lot of money.
Why?
I think Big Bang Theory and
That gets you
some
$1
other
billion?
things. Let's see. Johnny Galecki net worth.
I mean, it's got to be more than just the acting there. It's got to be something behind it.
Let's see. Oh, sorry. He's only worth $160 million. Sorry about that. My bad. My bad. I thought he was worth more than that, but only $160 million for
Not
Big
even
Bang
worth
Theory
talking about.
and playing Rusty and Big Bang Theory. This is what you-
And on Roseanne.
Sure.
He was the boyfriend on Roseanne.
Yeah, that's cool. But Travis Kelce's other TV show premieres October 16th on Prime Video, which is a 20-episode season that is already filmed of Are You Smarter Than a Celebrity, in which he is the host.
Yes, is the answer.
Of Are You Smarter Than a Celebrity. You know, it's a spinoff of the Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They should
no
do-
Jeff Foxworthy this time.
They should do fifth graders. Are you smarter than a celebrity? That would be a closer deal. And actually, I'd go with the
So
fifth
they're
graders.
just contestants versus celebrities.
Okay.
I'm assuming.
I'm guessing too.
As it was contestants versus fifth graders. But it'll be now Kelsey with the fun little one-liners.
And he's the host.
He's
right?
the
Yeah.
host as opposed to Foxworthy. So those have already. So this offseason, Kelsey filmed 10 episodes of Grotesquerie and 20 episodes of Are You Smarter Than a Celebrity, which will drop on FX September 25th with Grotesquerie and Prime Video October 16th.
The 10 of the Grotesquerie would take way longer than the 20 because they'll churn out 3 or 4 of those in a day.
But I would say that the more heavy lifting would be the 20 episodes when he's got to be on his game and got to be the one like ready to offer little one-liners and everything that's happening.
They cut out that there's
some sitting
they
around.
They post edit there, right?
I don't know.
There's some maybe some dead air between the comments. Well, they'll cut that out.
20 episodes where he's probably doing 10 hours of work because those 30-minute episodes and he's the host. You got to be on the whole time as opposed to Travis will come get you in a couple of hours. Go back to your trailer.
It's really scripted too. Very scripted.
I don't know. I think that is all
I bet he
ad-lib.
got those 20 done in a week. In a week. They literally they go change clothes. They bring in the next guests who are waiting in the wings.
Well, now I'm curious as to what go ahead, Dylan.
Oh, I was just going to ask Mick, when he was doing his shoot, like, what was the trailer situation?
It's a great question.
I know that Mr. Holmes obviously gets a trailer.
The commercial shoots?
Yeah. So, did you
I was sitting in my hot truck on like a 98-degree day.
Is that like hot yoga? You were working out in a hot truck?
Basically, I was losing weight.
Okay.
That was there was no
trailer
no
service.
snacks, right? Nothing like that. We didn't have any gaffs, is what they're called, gaffers. We had gaffs. We didn't have gaffers. We didn't have what are the stuntmen? Nothing else. It was key grips. That's what I was thinking of.
You didn't put any of this in your contract to be able to.
That's what I'm saying.
I didn't have the wherewithal. I didn't have the foresight.
But now I am curious as to what Travis Kelce was filming all day on the Thursday of Lake Tahoe when it was the celebrity karaoke night, because he was filming all day.
Of those two things.
I know, but which one? But he was filming all day, and he took the private plane right into Tahoe. He got off the plane. He got in a car. He got driven to Edgewood. He got out of the car, and then he went up on stage and did the celebrity karaoke song Whitesnake, in which everybody then said he was wasted and drunk. And it's like, actually, he was very loose. He was as sober as he probably was the entire weekend. Was that because he literally just got off a plane on a car ride over and then did Whitesnake. Also, and when he was talking up there, he was fine. It's just he was performing there because he's a performer now. He's doing that. Well, the NFL is scripted.
If you got there during the day, I'm gonna say he was doing the game show. Maybe that during the day because that looks like a lot of night. So maybe night shoots.
Yes, we got there at night.
So maybe he's doing night shoots.
Because he told Jonathan Thomas from American Century, he said, I will be at the celebrity karaoke no matter what it takes. I'll be there. I'm filming all day, but I will be there that night.
Because they shoot.
And he won.
They will shoot like from sundown to sunup a lot of times.
Well,
and that's why I always wondered, like on these TV shows and movies, like it is either really bright out or really dark. There's no dusk, right? It's like 6:30 at night and it's like pitch black outside.
Right.
You're just going to dinner. Where in the world is it this dark? Well, they're probably shooting at 2 a.m. is why.
Yes. Look how bright the stars are. Like, this is where are you at? You're not downtown. I know that. I always wonder, like, why don't they do, like, more remote filming? Like, you know what? Let's just go to the Caribbean and just I'm going to write a movie just to go to the Caribbean and do this.
Money.
Yeah, I know, but typically Hollywood is okay with just spending a lot of money for films, right?
For a certain, like 1%
whatever.
of
Greenlight whatever.
Yeah.
Just
before the final box office comes out, they're more than willing to spend a bunch of money. It's after the fact when they realize it ain't going to catch up that
come on,
they
it's
get
like
pissed.
I mean, it's like come on, just like hey, just why don't you just greenlight this? We're going to get some actors together. We're going to write the thing eventually, but we're going to go there for, I don't know, a couple months.
There's a great series on Netflix. It's called The Movies That Made Us, and it's behind the scenes on all these great 80s and 90s movies. And one of them, Forrest Gump, and all of them, like, they're always facing budget issues, right? And it's almost not going to get done. The script sat around for years. That was the case for Forrest Gump, and they were so pissed off at Tom Hanks and Steven Spielberg at the heights of their career for spending too much money on Forrest Gump that those two had to forego their salaries and only get paid in points.
Oh, that's too bad.
Which is a thing. And they bet on themselves, which it's Tom Hanks.
I'm not going to work look, sorry, Microsoft in 1981. I don't want stock options.
Because they were in.
I need health care.
Yeah, they were in, I think. Dan
Marino.
I think they were in South Carolina shooting and not Alabama. But But and the executives were so mad. It was costing so much money, taking so much time. And it's like, how do you not realize you have one of the biggest hits in the history of cinema here?
Yeah.
And you don't, I guess, or at least they didn't in that instance. And it almost didn't get made like 10 times of the production stopped.
If it had just got made the next year, then it wouldn't be one of the travesties at the Oscars of it beating out Pulp Fiction for Best Movie. So it should have got made a year later, so that people wouldn't be complaining about the fact that how does this not good? How does
was Pulp Fiction up for Best Picture?
Yeah, it was Shawshank, Forrest Gump,
Oh, geez.
Pulp Fiction. It was a pretty absurd year. Pulp Fiction deserved it, but
Is that when
Forrest
Hanks
Gump-
won like back to back with
Yeah.
when Philadelphia and Forrest Gump
Yeah,
like
it
back
was-
to back?
Yeah, and Quentin still can't get a Best Director Oscar. Didn't get it that year. If you're not getting it for Pulp Fiction, you're never getting it. Okay?
I mean, I don't know if I'm
You
getting
know?
all stompy foot about Quentin Tarantino not winning a Best Director.
I'm just
Although
saying
I love
for
his
Pulp
movies.
Fiction, that's,
I love his movies.
It's transcendent.
Well, but that's not going to be. I feel like the Academy. The same with
Oh, I
comedy.
know, that's sort of the
comedies,
point,
They're,
yeah.
they're never gonna like buy
Yeah,
into something
right.
like that.
No, that's sort of the point. It's
Yeah.
like no, we're gonna, it's Spielberg and it's Hanks. Come on,
Yeah,
Spielberg
yeah.
and it's Hanks. Come on, man.
That's like the one time finishing 4th or 5th is really not that bad. When those were the movies you were
finish
listing
second
off.
and third. It's like, who'd you lose
Shawshank.
to?
Yeah.
Forrest Gump. Oh, well, who was second? Shawshank. Oh, okay.
Pulp
Yeah.
Fiction.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I finished fourth
Was that
year.
was that 94?
Yeah. God, I want to. I need to know what Dylan will probably look up who all was up for Best Picture.
Well,
that
back
year in
then it was
94.
only like 5.
Yes.
Now
they
it's
didn't
15.
have 15 of them.
Yeah.
Good God, man. Back then it was easy to go, okay, I've seen all of these movies.
Yeah.
I have an opinion on what I think is the best picture
Now
for
there's
the Oscars.
15 and only 4 hit the theaters.
Exactly.
Because the rest were made in France and are subtitled
Right.
and stuff like that.
Well, I'm not watching that film. All right, I'm not going to watch that. I'll give you my opinion on these 6. All right? Out of the 12. Okay, I got half of them
Was
now.
Meryl Streep in it? Yeah, I'm going to see that one.
Okay,
The others, I don't
great.
think so.
You know? Yeah, it's just gotten. You know what? It's the damn participation trophy.
That's what it is.
I mean, it's just these kids these days with their participation trophies in Hollywood. It is getting really ridiculous. And which brings us to the point about the Chiefs.
Finally got there at 1:15.
Hollywood
We started
Kelsey.
this conversation at
Hollywood
10.
Kelsey.
Yes.
Yeah, 9:45. You and I started the conversation on the phone, and we
And our
eventually-
pre-planning meeting.
And we needed to incorporate Johnny Galecki. We all had our list of things our friends sent us to try to
Yep.
work into the show, as we do every day. People don't realize what we say is.
I play Sportscast Bingo. Do you know
I know
that?
you do, yeah. That's which is great, by the way. I love doing that. Jason Benetti did that recently with the Tigers. The Tigers players were.
Sounds like a talented individual.
Benetti's the man, dude. He's
He's really
best,
good.
Dude. He's so free. He's so good, man. The Whites. How do the White Sox let him get away? Like you're
He
just
was
like-
with the White Sox.
He was White Sox last 3 years, and then now he's with the Tigers. And boy, people do not like the play-by-play announcer for the White Sox at all. Who was up in '94?
It's not really that great.
Was I
after-
right about those 3?
Yeah, you were right
Okay.
about the 3.
I
but
would've
it
felt really
drops
bad if-
off, and maybe I haven't seen these movies. The next one was 4 Weddings and a Funeral by Duncan Kenworthy.
Yeah, it was okay. Yeah.
And then Quiz Show.
Oh yeah, that was a good one. I remember that
Quiz Show
one.
Was,
Yep.
Quiz Show won a few awards that year at the Oscars.
Yeah.
It was like didn't realize how it
It was a
would
documentary on like a game show in the 1950s or something like that.
Didn't realize
Not
how-
doc, but a
how we would
story
look
of.
back and go, how did Quiz Show win all these awards
How does
over
Quiz
like
Show get
Pulp
nominated?
Fiction and Shawshank
Even
and,
4 Weddings and a Funeral. How'd that get nominated?
and Forrest Gump? Like, okay, sure, whatever, it's fine.
Yeah,
You
it's a
wanna-
tough year to make a movie that year because then Best Actors, Tom Hanks, Morgan Freeman, and John Travolta for the same 3
Yeah,
movies.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
You were saying earlier, Pulp
Was,
Fiction, and Shawshank.
Was
and-
Sam Jackson like supporting?
yes, sir. He was.
Wait, was
he win?
Andy Dufresne,
No, he
Tim
didn't.
Robbins supporting?
Martin Landau,
Yeah, Tim Robbins would have had
Ed
to be
Wood,
supporting.
and Bella.
Martin Landau, baby.
Hold on, Tim Robbins wasn't for a supporting actor
I would figure he would
or
be
main
main
actor.
I bet Freeman and him
He
were
carried
both
the
up
movie.
for main actor,
It was his
Neither.
movie.
Yeah, neither. Crazy.
and Freeman was up for best actor, not supporting, huh?
Yep.
Okay.
Who won it?
Tom Hanks.
Tom Hanks.
Oh yeah,
Because
no,
he won
Jesus.
Philadelphia
Of course,
the year
yeah,
before,
yeah,
right?
Of course he won.
And I don't know if this is in order of like where they finished, but Freeman is second. No,
No.
there's no way it's where they finished. 'cause
Yeah, I don't
4
think they.
Weddings
I
and a
don't.
Funeral
Yeah, I don't
finished
think they
second
ever
here.
say.
No.
Then it's
second.
alphabetical order.
Yeah.
Freeman.
Yeah.
Is it alphabetical order after that? Probably.
No.
I mean, I have no
Is
idea
it
if it
4 as in like just
Yeah.
the
No,
numerical
actually,
4?
Jason, you're right. By last name.
Okay, there we go. Okay, it's 1:20. Now let's go to the 1995 Oscars that we talked about earlier today that we're going to get into.
Actually, this
you
is
know
the Oscars I was born during.
You were
During the Oscars?
During the
Like that
Oscars?
night?
March 27th, 1995. That's my birthday.
Seriously?
Yeah.
I should know that. You tell people
awesome.
your birthday all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Like Dylan's walking
I
around all the
shoehorn it
time.
in
Like,
all the time.
oh, January 27th. Oh, this is another chance for Dylan to tell everybody when he's born.
It's 2 months from my birthday.
It's exactly.
Do you
the
know the
opposite.
time you were born?
Yes, I was born that morning. So I was born.
Okay, so
before.
you were out in time to catch the Oscars
Yeah.
that night.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
so you got to be just as pissed as everybody else.
Yeah.
You're like, I don't understand. I don't get it with Forrest Gump. I just don't understand it.
Listen,
okay?
I've been here 4 hours and I'm pissed.
I don't.
4 weddings, a funeral, and a birth.
I don't understand. I think it would have been better if they would have just done the movie from beginning to the end and not jump around in Pulp Fiction. That's just what I think. I can't watch the movie and jump around. Okay, hold on. Travolta's dead, and then the next scene he's alive. Okay, I'm out. I just don't get it. Why? Let's try to be different. Ugh, just give me Spielberg, please. More of that. Or Shawshank. I mean, this guy was wrongly accused. It's a great sort of view and peel back the curtains of our justice system, really. That was what you were thinking before you
Yeah.
started feeding for the first time?
That was my first words, actually. So
Zuataneo? Is that your first words?
yeah.
I feel like that year with Tom Hanks and Forrest Gump winning was a real panacea of like everything, just all feeling better about ourselves. What's that? Oh, 8 pounds, 5 ounces. Great. Why are you cutting that, Dad? All right, we'll take a time out finally,
Jeez.
and we'll actually get into
What are we
Chiefs.
going to get? Chiefs?
Yeah, you know what?
Let's go. They play tomorrow on 41.
Oh my goodness, is it on 41 tomorrow?
I'm so excited.
Boy, you better not be fooling.
After tomorrow, I don't want any more days to happen.
Get your YouTube TV ready.
7 o'clock Sporting Kansas City show. Royals and Reds, a 3-game set, starts this weekend, starts tonight. It's a big one. Bobby v. Ellie. This will decide. These 3 games will be the entire deciding factor of who's better.
The Red, that's it.
Yeah.
What more tests do you need?
Yeah.
The Reds are 1 game under 500. Keep them under 500. That's
right.
my goal.
That's
Keep
right.
them under 500.
That means you won 2 of 3.
You at least won 2 out of 3.
That's right.
Maybe 3.
Jack and I talked in the first segment that, one of those very micro discussions about how a team is playing specifically over a couple of days, and then some frustrations about that. And I'm looking back to, Monday morning when they were getting ready for the 3-game set against the Red Sox, going through the format and everything, because I was putting the format together today, and I'm like, all right, there's 6 games back in the division. All right, 2.5 games up in the wild card. Because I thought that was familiar, so I went back, and that Monday before the Red Sox game, they were 2.5 games up in the wild card.
Yeah.
As bad as the Royals have been over the last week and a half, they're in the
Boston's been worse.
Yes. And Jack and I were talking about this. I'm like, what's a bigger missed opportunity? You're 2.5 games up, and you played some rough baseball while other teams are losing, or you're 2.5 games back, and the team in front of you is playing crap baseball, and you have not gained even a half game on them.
Here's the deal.
And you beat them twice.
Here's the deal. You need to have just like, if the Twins are playing well, make sure the Red Sox aren't. Yes. If the Red Sox are playing well, make sure the Twins aren't, basically, right? Because those are the 2 teams right there, and the 2 races you got to be paying attention to.
It's 3 teams for 1 spot, really. It's Royals.
I still think the Twins are going to win the division. I mean, you look at run differential.
Mm-hmm. Well, I would say
the Royals have a better run differential than the Indians, the Guardians.
So I would say whoever wins the division between the Guardians and the Twins, I think the other one will make the playoffs.
Yes.
So with Minnesota and Cleveland really feeling like both of them are in, it's Royals, Red Sox, Mariners for the last wild card
I'll
spot.
say whoever wins the division between those 2, the next team will go to the playoffs, whether that's the Twins Guardians, or Royals.
Yeah.
Right. Because I still think second place is still in the cards, and first is, but more realistically, second. And that's the biggest deal. I just want to get to second place in the Central to more solidify your wild card role.
Yeah.
It's not like you have to reel in the Guardians here.
Yeah, because the Twins are 4.5 games up.
But I mean,
the wild card.
It's like, you play the Red Sox, play the Twins, and I get it. It's only a few games at a time, but Twins feel like they're a better team. White Sox felt like they're a better team. When they play the Guardians, I'm like,
Red Sox, you mean?
I say White Sox, yeah. Big difference there this year. But the Guardians, I'm like, the Royals, I'm not. They can beat these guys.
But oftentimes it's like, I know it seems like the Twins are a bad matchup, but oftentimes it almost feels like, when you play a team as opposed to, who you're playing.
Sure.
Because the Twins, if they'd have played them like a month ago when the Royals
weren't
were playing,
scoring runs
and
at all.
The Twins were doing nothing. Royce Lewis wasn't playing. It's like, okay, they could have won. Twins are playing great baseball now, which is what concerns me about the series this weekend.
And you hope that
the Reds are now playing some of their
great
best
baseball because of the Royals, right? Because there's that part too.
Right.
It's not always how well you're playing; it's who you're playing.
But that's sort of like the concern this weekend is that the Reds are playing the best baseball they played all year, and they're now tracking down the teams in front of them to make the wild card, and they're playing like a team that people thought they would be at the beginning of the season when it was like, hey, this is a team that's going to make the playoffs. They burst onto the scene and finished above 500 last year and made some moves in the offseason. And Hunter Green, who's now turned into an ace, but the Royals don't see him this week, and that's good. But they just swept the Cardinals.
Yeah.
And, they're right there, at one point being 7-8 games under 500, and then they're essentially a 500 team now. They're playing awesome baseball, and it sucks that you're catching them now. You caught them a month ago before the All-Star break. If you played this game in May, the series in May, you would have won.
You're going to catch them again.
Yeah.
And then, look, the Royals have historically been better in interleague games than they have in American League games, and they have 6 series left with National League teams. 6 series in the next month and a half are going to be the likes of the Reds and the Pirates
and the Phillies.
And the Phillies, though, right?
Yeah.
And the Braves, they were good teams and everything, but it's almost like the familiarity of the division. It obviously breeds contempt, but it also breeds knowledge of each other. And it's like the Twins know the Royals, and they just kind of have their number.
Yeah.
And hopefully the Royals kind of maybe this year have that same thing on the Guardians, to where Guardians are winning the division, but the Royals are 4-2 against them so far, and hopefully they can continue that when they play them coming up.
7 games left against the Guardians, so there's a lot to be decided from that standpoint. But yeah, they're in the exact same spot, 2.5 games up right now. They've got
That's it. 500 baseball is going to get you to the playoffs.
Exactly.
It's going to get you to the playoffs.
Because the Red Sox have the second toughest schedule the rest of the way in the American League, behind the Rays.
They are 11 games. The Royals are 11 games at above 500 or 10?
They are 13. They're 66 and 53. Did I get that wrong?
Not the Royals.
Sorry.
Not the Royals. They're 11 or 10.
Yeah,
I think they're like 66 and 55 maybe.
Yeah, I got that wrong. I did not. What happened was I did not change the loss. I didn't change the losses from 60. I changed this.
You just like we're throwing out the 2 bad games.
I changed it from 64 and 53 to 66 and 53 instead of 66 and 55.
And so what's the and they're 11 above?
Yep, they're 66, 55.
That gets you to 87 wins. 86, 87 wins.
Which is what
that's going to get you in, man.
A lot of the projections have it like 86 and a half.
I feel like a lot of times you're kind of like seeing ghosts out there to where like you just assume the Red Sox are going to play 800 ball the rest of the way, and so are the Twins and all this stuff. No, their team's just like you. They have their own issues, and that's what I've learned kind of ever since August started. Like, okay, I'm like you. Like the Royals haven't played great, but they haven't lost a whole lot of ground in doing so. So they put themselves in this position. Just kind of steady the ship, keep your head above water the rest of the way you're in the playoffs.
Well, and the thing that's good about where they're at ahead of the Red Sox right now is that the Royals have played one more game than the Red Sox have.
That's the whole deal. The Royals have all these extra games in hand as opposed to the Twins.
Because
get these double headers in, Minnesota.
They played one more game, and they have 2 fewer losses than the Red Sox. So the Red Sox have to play another game, and to win that one, then to get to 2 games back, then play 2 games better the rest of the way. If they play that one extra game along the way and they lose that, now the Royals are up 3 games. The what you are in the loss column does matter, and so the Royals with 2 fewer losses, but it's a big 6 games because it's the Reds and the Angels before the schedule turns to ridiculousness.
Are the Angels playing well too?
I don't know. I haven't looked at them yet, to be honest with you. But
it's not. I mean, we kind of looked ahead at the August and September schedule for the Royals. It's challenging, but it's not. It's not murderer's row, man. There's some bad teams they're playing along with some division leaders as well. With the Astros coming up as well, and of course the Guardians and the Phillies. But then you have the Pirates are no good, right?
The Angels are 5-9 since the last day in July, and they're 1-5 in the last 6 games. They just got swept by the Blue Jays.
Bobby's now leading Shohei in OPS by like a thousandth of a point, which is unreal, right?
But after that Angels game, after that Angels series, it's Phillies at home, 4 in Cleveland, 4 in Houston, Cleveland for 3 at home, Twins for 3 at home, 3 in New York against the Yankees.
No, I forgot about them.
It's that's why I said these next 6 games are crucial because you need to start playing better baseball to rack up some wins along the way before it gets into playing all playoff teams and all teams that could win the pennant in the American League. So we'll see. But let's see who is lighting it up and maybe who will be lighting it up. Who's lighting it up for me is this season and rookies hitting for the cycle.
How many?
Because last night, Weston Wilson.
Of course.
Everybody knows Weston Wilson.
Wade Wilson, Deadpool.
That's exactly right. Yep. In his 10th Major League Baseball game for the Phillies.
He hits for the cycle.
For the Phillies. He hits for the cycle.
Oh, wow.
And it's the second cycle this year.
That's got to be, is that the earliest anybody's ever hit for the cycle in their careers?
I'd have
to be. A week and a half into your career.
9 games of play that's hit for so 10 games, Weston Wilson hits for the cycle. And that's coming after earlier this year, rookie Wyatt Langford hit for the cycle. So the 2 cycles this year, rookies in Major League Baseball. So yeah, that's my lighting it up. Sort of off the beaten path, but I mean,
that's
game.
I mean, I was talking with somebody the other day. I think Bobby Witt Jr. is going to end up with not just multiple cycles. But it could end up being 3 to 5.
It's how random baseball is.
How many times is he always one hit away?
The Royals haven't had one since '91, and 2 rookies have done it this year.
Yeah,
like it's just such a randomness in baseball.
Paul DeYoung was one away from the other night.
All he needed was a triple.
All he needed, the easiest one.
All Billy Butler needed was a single. All Bobby Witt needed was a single.
They got plunked.
Oh my God! And then he flew out to Wright later on.
But he's flirted with it so many times. I really think he's going to have 3 to 5 cycles by the time he gets out of here.
I wouldn't doubt. Mookie's got a couple, I think.
What's the record for most cycles individually? Have there been guys with that many?
Really interesting one. Cycling, I don't know. Ask McGuire or Bonds. Bonds would know about how many cycles he was going through.
Lance
Armstrong. Lance cycled a lot.
Cycles.
Yeah,
couple different ways.
Who's lighting it up for you, Mick?
I don't know. I just learned that I was supposed to come up with somebody lighting up. Hopefully it's
Dylan,
Carson.
who's lighting it up
Hopefully
for you?
it's Carson Steele because I'm doing a story on him and his
I like
alligator.
it. Do it.
I reached out
Go
to
with Carson Steele.
the zoo people, and they're like, "No, you can't come shoot our alligator," and not shoot it, but cover it. Either way, with the camera or
understand why.
We only do that
you
if
can't do it
someone's in the enclosure.
Yeah, that or with a rifle. Either way, you cannot shoot in any way.
Really?
You can. Yeah, it's weird. But
can you just go there and then take pictures
I wanted
with your
to,
phone?
and it's too late now. But I wanted to I don't know if there's any exotic zoos around. I just wanted to go to talk to the Kansas City Tiger King, who's got a couple alligators. Say, do you recommend having alligators or crocodiles as pets? And hear their answer, which I would assume would be no. I'm infatuated with do you take it out of the tank or whatever it's living in? Do you guys play with it? Do you wrestle around? Is there a walk that you can do with your gator? Because I think other animals, even tiger cubs and maybe lion cubs that grew up around people, maybe they can get used to the person and they don't 24/7 want to bite their face off.
Yeah.
But I don't think we can get there with gators. Gators seem way dumber and way more like I am here to survive and I want to kill at all times.
It's the medulla oblongata.
That's why.
And they got all them teeth and no toothbrush.
Yes.
That's all the reason why they're so ornery.
So I hope Carson Steele has a great game and makes the team so I can investigate this further.
I am picturing one day Carson Steele, if he's become a star, that they will allow in some state to where he can show up and walk in and he's got his alligator on a leash behind him, just walking in. And there's Carson Steele with his trusty Crocky J that's been... people are loving Crocky J, but
Crocky J.
They showed Taylor Swift on the big screen, and they were pissed about that. But let's show what's Crocky J's reaction to Carson Steele scoring a touchdown.
It'd be like the Chiefs' UGA, basically. We'll have the alligator on the sideline.
Fantastic.
The best thing about that story is when I found out the gator, you're like, okay, where's he from? The Everglades or the Outer Banks or something? No, he's from Indiana.
Indiana? Why? Why?
What do you think?
French Lick, he and Larry Bird.
PetSmart.
French Bite.
It's from Gary, Indiana. The Jacksons. Crocky J.
So
French Bite.
Yes. Right?
I like that. Carson Steele, you can be lighting up.
Yeah, he's lighting it up.
He's got the hair that would look like sometimes that happens. Dylan, who's lighting it up for you?
I got 2 quick ones for lighting it up. One, just shout out to Adam Teicher. He had a cool photo his last day at training camp for his last year doing the coverage for the Chiefs, 20-plus years. Shout out to Adam Teicher. Cool picture of his Missouri Western cap that he dons every year. And then also Joel Embiid. He was awarded the Order of Valor in his home country of Cameroon for getting the gold medal with the United States. So it's kind of nice for Joel. He didn't really seem to mind getting booed by France the entire time he was there, but it is nice that he gets kind of commended by his actual home country.
Yeah.
Because he is from Cameroon by way of France.
Yeah.
So it's nice that they kind of stepped up and said,
did he live in France ever, or is it just Cameroon's a property
of
France?
I don't know how that worked, but yeah, I do know that he was originally from Cameroon.
And he chose to play for the U.S.
When he was at KU, he told people he had killed a lion.
Yes, correct.
That's a little different than having an alligator for a pet.
No. Oh, yeah.
So
yeah, I think I would rather have an alligator than a fully grown lion.
Yes.
Yeah. Alligators can only move 2 or 3 miles an hour.
Because the lion didn't go crazy. The lion went lion.
Yeah, lion went lion.
All right, the lion didn't just react like. So he played for the U.S. sort of like the pole vaulter for Sweden.
Yep.
Played for pole vaulted.
He vaulted for Sweden.
Vaulted for Sweden while being born and raised in Louisiana.
Yep, and went to LSU.
Well, let me tell you something about the.
But nobody knows it. I mean,
Swedish pole
nobody
vaulters.
thinks it because his name's Mondo Duplantis. I'm like,
Right.
yeah, that is a foreign name.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
That guy has no idea what the United States is like. He's never stepped foot in. What's that? Oh, they hired his dad to be a coach So he chose Sweden.
But no, his dad is the American one. His mom is from Sweden.
Right.
Duplantis is like the American Cajun name or whatever.
But Sweden hired his dad to be a pole vault coach, which is why he chose to pole vault for Sweden.
Sweden, Ed Manning did?
They Mario Chalmers did. They Mario Chalmers the hell out of that kid being the best pole vaulter that ever lived. Like, how do we get this kid to choose us over the United States? Let's hire his dad. Can you do that?
They do it in college basketball.
They're doing college basketball all the time. Are you kidding me? Look what LSU's doing. They're hiring dads all the time.
Yep.
Give this guy a great salary. Come on. Imagine this guy pole vaulting for Sweden. Now imagine him for the United States. Let's go. Let's pay this dad whatever it takes. I just love it. Recruit the dad. Recruit the parents, man.
I hate Olympic free agency. We should not have country free agency, right? Can we not just get something that's hard and fast? Okay, if you're from this country, if you were born here and you have spent most of your time here, that's who you play for. Right? You don't just move somewhere to get citizenship and you can play for them. I hate country free agency.
Kurt Flood would do whatever it takes to be able to go to whatever country. All right, he should be allowed to go to another country.
No, I'm all for you. You can work wherever you want, but when it comes to the Olympics, it shouldn't be that hard.
You were born and raised in this country.
How many people have lived in multiple countries in their life? Not many. And how many of those people are world-class athletes? A very few percentage. Why is this an issue?
I feel like it'd be different if hey, you're not good enough for us. Like, okay, well, I also have dual citizenship over there. Okay, great. Then go get people.
Well, I have dual citizenship because I know I'm not good enough for you. So
yeah,
we've seen the women's basketball player. She played in Russia and ended up playing for Russia. I'm like, no, I'm sorry, that doesn't count. You should. If you don't make our team, can't play on our team.
Yeah,
it's the Olympics. Not everybody can play.
That's right.
Right? It's not like the Oscars where everybody gets to be involved.
Everybody is put up for Best Picture.
Everybody gets a gold.
Everybody gets that. There's, I think, 25 different movies that are going to be up for Best Picture. Best TV show, Grotesquerie. It's going to be up there. There's going to be a lot of awards.
That or the game show. What's the game show called?
Are You Smarter Than a Celebrity?
That's right, yeah.
That debuts October 16th.
I'll get the DVR going for both those.
Forward to that one as the Chiefs will be on the bye week. 4 days later, they'll be heading to the 49ers Levi Stadium. So, all right, we'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We got cuts before the show is over. Coming up next. see what's happened over the week. Take it away, Dylan.
That would be my first choice, but say for that, at least I don't know who's back there right now that it.
I guess sometimes it happens. You're just talking and you burp. What are you gonna do?
He did play some good defense and went to the basket strong.
He did not play good.
He did in the fourth quarter.
No, he did not.
Yes,
he hasn't played good defense in 10 years. LeBron,
you're just a butthurt Lakers fan, aren't you?
Go get him, Blair. LeBron did play great defense in the Olympics. Keep going, Dylan.
We should be a marketing firm.
I agree.
SMD.
Well,
Whoa.
thanks for marking that. All right, I will. but-
DMS.
There you go. So we were workshopping some acronyms for me,
Really?
Mick, and
Yeah.
Sterling.
I see. So you're already sort of nudging me out. I
Well,
get it.
Yeah.
That's
you
fine.
weren't here, but you might have been lucky to.
You
not
missed
be here
one
for that
show.
We decided on MDS. We're all going to be doctors.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, not SMD.
None of that,
Okay,
please.
great. What's next?
Just drill somebody and let it be felt.
Yeah.
Les is a gift that keeps on giving, is he
I
not?
love it. I love it. Unless he talks, we don't react. But in the background, we mark, and then we play on Friday, and sometimes he hears. That's the relationship we have.
You saw the highlight, though. When you saw 42 running people over,
it was
you
awesome.
want to punch through a wall.
It was
you want to kick
awesome.
someone's ass when you saw that.
It was an awesome run.
I've never seen Sherm run anybody over like that.
Awesome.
He has to say something.
Yeah, it's just it's sad.
It's sad. Never seen Sherm run anybody over like that. We're number 42
Well,
in the game.
who's got 12 now, by the way? I'm sure you can make some Garrett Dieter jokes.
Don't know.
But if you're doing this poll, why'd you mark that?
I gotta listen to that.
Dancing on the pole.
Come on.
Hey, don't ever take a day off again, Jason.
Why would he ask? Why'd you mark that?
I know. Well,
If you're doing this poll,
He said it immediately, like
why are you
he
marking
maybe
that?
did that on purpose.
Why are you marking that? Like this seems absurd. There's no reason to mark
The
this.
second one, as you could hear me saying, "Come on, man," because the second one was on purpose.
Oh, Jared Wiley's number 12. Duh.
Yeah, duh.
That's duh. I knew it was going to be something where I looked it up. I'm like, oh, jeez.
Was
Jackass.
McCall for a while last year.
Right. Keep going.
There's a lot going on, bro. How am I supposed to remember everything? You're texting me. I got to remember what time to be here for the podcast, and then I got Thursday. I got the show. Like,
He's overwhelmed. Sure, sounds like.
Listen, you chose to be on the show.
I'm just saying, I'm not gonna remember every detail of my life.
Just asking who.
God
Dude, what are we doing?
I just love how incredulous
Dude,
Sherm just feels.
yes.
Really, dude, what are we doing, man? It's sad. He said it was sad that Dieter had to make fun of him. Keep going, Dylan.
Ask him about how being on the
God.
panel at PickleCon was.
Oh yeah, how was your guest speaking?
Shit was lit.
Wow.
God. You can't help. And then the steamer. Wow. Just like, what are you going to do? Look, you got to listen in on Thursdays from 8 to 9 because Sherman Dieter will go back and forth, and Dieter will just cuss from time to time, at least twice a show.
I was going to say, every show, from time to time, every show.
At least twice an hour.
That has to be the hardest word, though, because the sh word is like a.
What is it? Which word?
You know.
Is
you
it
know what word.
shush?
Shush?
Shish kebab?
Yes.
Shawshank Redemption.
Yes.
Chicago. You're out.
Because it's almost like a or but or like like the things people say before
right.
they start talking.
Yeah.
Have we documented all the different
Twice an
words
hour.
he said,
Twice an hour.
though, that he's got in trouble for? All of them?
There'll
All
be
7 deadly
Yep.
words?
The bracket of sound.
Okay.